Hello, FNAFers! The spring has come, and so did the FNAF 4 analysis. And today I'm joined by Cheeda.
Hey!
Drazarus.
What's up?
Flipside.
Howdy.
And... Kroki? Or... Did I pronounce-
Krakoa.
Krakoa. Okay, it's something that I don't know how to pronounce.
Krakoa.
Okay, oh wait, the music isn't repeating for some reason. Let me just fix the music.
Yeah.
How do I make the music repeat? Does anybody know?
Music?
Yeah, on OBS. Wait, I forgot how to do it. Properties, maybe? Loop, here we go, loop. I think it should work maybe right now? Okay, okay, so let me see if the stream is streaming. Let's see, live, here we go.
Trying to find your stream and I get springtime for Hitler.
What?
What?
Oh
Indeed.
no.
So let me see if the stream is streaming.
Try putting it try putting the apostrophe after the G and the F.
Live, here we go.
I just don't know why that okay. I guess I need
You're
to
funny.
learn about World War II again. Back to school I go.
Okay, so does the stream sound good?
Try putting it try putting the apostrophe after the G and the F.
It still
I
says
just
it's
don't know why that okay.
Does the stream sound good to everyone?
Actually, I think it does.
Or do I need to make everyone louder a bit?
After the G and the F. Yeah, it's working, so that's really all that matters.
Okay, here we go.
Does the stream sound good to everyone?
Oh, here we go.
Actually, I think it does.
Or do I need to make everyone louder a bit?
Then again, you really don't want
Okay,
that.
now I can hear it. Now I can hear it.
Sorry. Yeah, it's working, so that's really all that matters.
Alrighty. Yeah, the stream sounds good. The music sounds great.
Does the stream
Cool.
sound good to everyone? Okay, so so shall we start discussing things? If everything sounds good to everyone?
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Source Cypher is in the chat.
Oh, he is? Cool.
Okay, well, actually, let me first do something. So last time we had something of a list of what to discuss, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this time I thought instead we're gonna have something better. So it can, okay, so it should appear on the stream in a few seconds. So if everybody will look at the stream and wait until it will update, we gonna have a pin board.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
jeez.
Oh
no.
boy.
I felt like a psycho, setting it all up.
Real quick.
So, and we have strings connecting them.
Oh jeez. Is this everything?
Well, I think so. I think so.
I didn't sign up. I didn't sign up to talk about Andrew.
Oh hell no.
I can't
Yep.
do. I guess
This
I'm
is
the
your-
one most qualified to talk about Andrew.
I'm sure he just doesn't exist.
Okay, does everybody see the strings?
I'll talk about Andrew.
Yeah, I see the strings. Yeah, this is your one
I can see
chance
the
to get
strings,
off the
yep.
boat. This is your one chance.
I'm already here. It's already sailing. It's too
You're
late.
strapped in.
Goodbye,
You're
life.
funny.
I came here to talk about FNAF 4, and yet we're talking about Andrew. This is not
Goodbye,
catch
life, folks. Later.
Okay, so I'm probably
Andrew
gonna.
Plush is true. That's why he's relevant to FNAF 4.
Okay, I'm gonna
Oh,
put
God,
the
no.
pinboard in the chat on Discord, so you could see it
That'll be helpful.
in better detail. So
That would be
precise.
much better.
Here we go. Here we go.
Time to go to office.
Guess the question would be, how do you want to handle the FNAF 4 minigames? As you could go night by night, or you could just generally address the overarching questions like I suggested, where you go like, oh, who was the Fredbear plush? What scared the bite victim? Who has he
That's an
become?
excellent
I
question.
think we should go by how I really set up the pinboard, so how the strings connect. So, and everything mostly connects to the minigames and the ending, as you can see.
Jeez.
So let's start from the center and go from there.
Oh, it
Probably.
starts at the center.
Yeah, the center is the minigames. That's the center point because that's the story.
Yeah, so I would recommend starting with minigames and going to the ending and the happiest day, the everything with it, basically, I think. Because I
Okay.
feel like it's the
We'll go through all these
most big
eventually.
part. Does everybody agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
seems
that's
like
fine.
the best way to do it.
So, first of all, we have the FNAF 4 minigames, which, well, lead to Crying Child's birthday, and then the ending, where we have the I will put you back together line, which is a different font from the rest of the text, from Fredbear Plush. And so, does anybody want to say something about this?
I can start off with
Go
an
for it.
immediate hot take. FNAF 4's minigames are the Golden Freddy origin story, and it's all about him and his ties to Happiest Day being the receiver, and that the ending is Charlie and Emily making the promise to put them back together, which is resolved in Happiest Day.
Wait, Charlie?
Yeah, didn't you watch his new video?
Him? No. Sorry.
I Sorry.
So.
You can go and continue.
I mean, yeah, since we are talking about Charlie, there's actually a string connecting to a Charlie-related thing, specifically the crying puppet from the FNAF 4 minigame,
FNAF 3.
which
from
FNAF 3 minigame, yeah.
Yeah.
So like back in the day, like people like used to theorize that Crying Child was the puppet for some reason, because he was in the same pose as the crying puppet in the minigame from FNAF 3. So what do you
Yeah.
think?
He
So
deeply resembles the puppet in a lot of physical ways.
Yeah.
But like obviously I could see why the connection was made back then. Obviously now we know that he isn't the puppet, but I definitely do think that definitely has relevance. That he's
Yeah,
designed
that-
way.
Yeah.
Was it-
Retroactively,
what is
that
the
might
thing?
be the Crying Child, and it has like the FNAF 4 color scheme in the background. Isn't
Yeah,
that interesting?
The thing there is like, it's his memory, right? Because even if you ignore memory, you just be like, okay, you go to FNAF 4, you have this kid who matches the puppet, and he does that pose, and you cross-reference it to FNAF 3. It's like, wait, why is the bite victim being represented by the puppet if in this memory or this recreation of what he did, if he's not the puppet? That would basically imply they're kind of like deeply connected, we're not the close friends, they're twins, like brother type thing, or in general, just ties the bite victim to that character and the puppet to that particular cutscene.
I didn't realize we would go into the crying puppet so fast, but that's
Right?
I'm really glad we are, because that's such an unexplained cool thing.
Yeah, so
I think we explained a little bit last time, but we couldn't explain it fully because it was FNAF 4 related.
Exactly. So let's do it here.
like the crying puppet isn't
Yeah.
interesting because like FNAF 4 wasn't even like really planned then, because like FNAF 3 was meant to be the last game. So like
Yeah.
it's interesting how when Scott was creating FNAF 4, well, he made the crying child quite similar to the puppet and the crying puppet pose in the ending.
I think I have some thoughts on that. I think that potential in the context of like if you're thinking about FNAF 3, I feel like the intention might have been that like the puppet's deeply connected to Happiest Day because the puppet is the only character who doesn't get a cake. They don't need to get a cake. They are kind of like part of orchestrating Happiest Day in the context of 3, I believe. Hence why the puppet's like still there physically too. And so I feel like at the time with like FNAF 3, that probably was just meant to show like the puppet is also just relevant in this regard because like of all of her connections to Happiest Day. But obviously I feel like that's changed now because of the revelation of like the bite victim. So, but I feel like if we're thinking about it in the context of 3, that might have been what Scott was going for.
No, I really think you're onto something there. Yeah, especially since in FNAF 4 the puppet is suspiciously missing. When Spring and I were doing a Fazbear Friday show on the puppet.
Well, actually, we didn't really do it yet. We were planning to do a full one.
We did some of it. And when we got to FNAF 4, there was almost nothing to say about the puppet. Isn't that suspicious?
Well, I would say there's a lot to say.
I mean,
that's why I liked your new video.
To theorize about it, but like, there's no puppet himself there.
Yeah, I would say like the way I go about it is FNAF movie is at the very end, and it shows that the puppet is orchestrating this game. I do think in retrospect, Golden Freddy was meant to be the player of the mainline minigames, except the last one, but it's shown that the puppet is the one orchestrating it, and you have these freeing all the 4 MCI, but it's all for one particular character. It's all being done for Golden Freddy. And the puppet is the one who gives that final cake and frees Golden Freddy with everyone else. That, to me, I think was always meant to signify that the puppet has a unique connection to the Golden Freddy child, in a special way compared to all the others, because she did all of this to particularly free him. And so in FNAF 4, when you have that marketing where it's like the final chapter of the original FNAF Freddy story that's still in the description, that would mean it's still a continuation of the MCI and puppet story from 1 to 3, and that would necessitate, due to all the Happiest Day connections, that the puppet is relevant to the story of the game. And so, ignoring all like minor pieces of evidence you could point out, I think that would heavily indicate that this plush who seems to have connections to the puppet, and this kid who has connections to the puppet, but also having greater connections to Golden Freddy, would imply this is telling the story of these 2 characters and why they're so connected to each other.
Well, I guess if we are talking about puppet, then I think it is a good time to ask the question, who died first?
I think it was Charlotte.
Okay. Well,
There is a possibility it would be the bite victim first, because one of the main things about the Silverized trilogy is it's always emphasized that Charlie dies, I think, like at the end of October and the beginning of November. So, and Fall Fest exists. So I'm wondering, and I used to believe Charlotte died first, but if this is the case, she died right basically after the bite victim in a sense, most likely of October to November, while the bite victim died sometime in October for Fall Fest.
What if she died in 82 like the novels?
Actually, no, she died in 1983.
The gravestone says 83, but the gravestone says 83, but the newspapers explicitly says she was taken in 82.
Yes.
That's even the not ultimate guide, the updated Freddy files and the original Freddy files, like commissioned artwork by Scott. So what I would say to that is you had 82 in the marketing of FNAF 4. You had it in the property of Fredbear's Dino teaser. So Scott had 82 in mind when making the game, and the Silverized that was being written at the exact same time had 82 be emphasized as the date Charlie was taken. And we all know these books were foreshadowing Charlie becoming the puppet, right? MacPat pointed out. So to me, that's to say that she died in 82, and like in the games as well. I'll also point out the Fall Fest poster from Help 1 or 2. The puppet always has tear tracks for Fall Fest 83. Now, if Charlie died Halloween or Fall Fest era of 83, how did Fazbear already integrate the tear tracks into the characters like design and put it on their posters? She would have had to have died for a period of time for that to happen. So if she died Halloween of 82, you have that time period for Fredbear's to close, Freddy's to open, and for the design to be integrated.
Okay, interesting.
I also
Now, there is
also-
something I should mention about the puppet actually. So everyone or some folks kind of ignore this, but reason why the tear tracks exist, besides like the crying child thing and everything with the FNAF 2 give cake to the children minigame, is if you look closely in FNAF 6, puppet doesn't have the tear tracks, but as soon as it's like starts to malfunction, you actually see like little black tear tracks start to trickle down.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah,
tears
he's right.
came from like the robot being like, I think it's actually meant to be like in a sense oil, like oil
but why
tear
would oil be
tracks.
purple?
No,
think-
no. I'm saying like so the tear tracks originally were most likely oil or whatever, but black in the mini game. I don't know if it could show purple. I don't know, but
I think it might have
that's
Charlie's
something
Agony,
to
something like
keep in.
I think it's on the topic of the puppet. I think the reason why, another reason why I'm like I came to the conclusion that she probably dies, at least she dies before the bite victim, is specifically because I'm gonna segue here a little bit.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about puppet, I'm gonna talk about just the topic of the fact that in FNAF 4's minigames we get the pigtail girl.
Yes, that is what I wanted to talk about.
Yep.
Who
that is
specifically
true.
says the words like, "Oh, they come to life at night."
Yeah,
or, you
I
know,
have right
and-
now it on
and-
the screen
And for
actually.
me, that. Oh yeah.
So
for
why do
me,
you
that's
look
like,
so
that-
worried? See you at the party, but before that she says, you better watch out. I hear they come to life at night. And if you die, they hide your body and never tell anyone. So that I mean, there could be rumors before like they even become possessed, like because well, kids like to make rumors and etc. But like that
Yeah.
seems like knowing that that is what happens in FNAF, and especially like that is the behavior of FNAF 1 animatronics. So like it seems like it would hint at least some animatronics being already alive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like,
I would think at the very least, like Charlotte, like possessing the puppet.
Yeah,
At the
so-
very least, would like that.
so
That would
first of all,
correlate to there be rumors of roaming animatronics.
yeah. So
I
first
have to like
And it would explain why it's in one particular area. It's not at a Freddy's location. No, it's at Fredbear's. But this is where it also goes into one of the biggest things that was, like, theorized about back then when MCI 83 existed.
I'm still
And now
insane.
that's, like, gone.
I'm still MCI
But,
83 to be
I'll get
honest.
to that
Yeah,
later.
Because of
I
this.
yeah.
Yeah,
You
focus
want-
on the crunch. I just want to say, like, I'll get to that later, but it does seem important in a sense. So, a pigtail girl saying, like, oh yeah, here they come to life at night. It's most likely, like, if Charlie did die, most likely rumors are of, like, something moving or whatever. Like, I hear they come to life at night. I mean, the only two things that would supposedly come to life at night that are not necessarily alive is the Springlock suits, but then there's also the puppet.
Yeah. So
I
like,
think.
The thing I say is that the reason I don't think it can be limited to the puppet is the puppet didn't create those rumors from what we know. The puppet is awake, but she didn't do the exact same thing as the MCI kids did. The rumors that we are hearing is one-to-one to what happens after the MCI occurs, where the kids possess the machine
Right.
and they start stuffing the kids to the robots. And you gotta take in mind, I don't think you can necessarily discount that as just a kid makes a rumor. That doesn't really make sense from a storytelling point of view, because this is the final chapter to the MCI story,
I agree.
and so MCI references would be literal in that sense. And what was I going to say? Oh yeah, it's that Scott said there's no random Easter eggs. This is even listed as an Easter egg in the Ultimate Guide, and there would have to be in-universe reason. why would a kid just happen to make a one-to-one rumor to something that doesn't happen until 20 years later? It would be a lot more vague if there's some rumor the kid spontaneously pop up that.
Yeah, so that's why I prefer MCI 83, and so because of this, like, I would assume that like the MCI would be before FNAF 4, and or at least Puppet would be before FNAF. Charlie would die before FNAF 4, because usually like throughout FNAF, usually she was the one who brought the kids to life, the animatronics to life, if not counting when the people came back to life on their own, like Papa, like Elizabeth as a baby, and William as Springshot. So because of this, I would assume Puppet died first because of this specific thing, because of this specific Easter egg in FNAF 4. Yeah. And
so, do you think if this is out of curiosity for all of you? So, do you think if the puppet did die, like, and most likely in November, do you think the Crying Child's poster? What the hell am I talking about? Do you think the Crying Child died in November?
I think he died Halloween of 1983, the 1-year anniversary, exactly on the year that Charlie died the previous one.
Okay.
My logic is pretty simple. Is that, again, it's explicitly stated to be 82 in the books, is even commissioned art for it, the puppeteer tracks. So we have a lot of evidence Charlie died at Halloween, but what we know, it doesn't make sense she could have been dead by Halloween 83. So the only other date there would be the date the Silvereye said, and that FNAF 4 even had in its source code.
I'm still curious about why he died in 1983 in the books, but it specifically states it was 1982. But it says local toddler was snatched, and it was supposed to be Sammy originally.
Yeah, you could make the argument that because the puppet, it seems like the puppet boy might have been a boy, but anyways, you could make the argument that gosh, now I just lost my train of thought. I was gonna say you could make the argument of something to do with bite victim. Dang it, never mind. I lost my train of thought. You have to get back to me. Of course.
Okay, so since we're talking about Charlie dying first, so do we believe Charlie died at Fredbear's or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe she did die at Fredbear's. Part of it for me has to do with I don't know if you guys have seen my Shadow Freddy video.
I haven't yet.
Shameless plug, by the way.
I watched it. Watch my Flex video too.
Part of it is I think it links back to Shadow Freddy. That's not the full reason, but it's also just part of the reason. But two, it's like mainly when people believe that the bite victim, that's not obviously this is not like 100%, but mainly when people put the bite victim before Charlotte's death, it's usually because it's in some way of trying to tie William killing Charlotte in response to the bite victim. Not necessarily Will Care, but like Will Spark, but for me, it's like I really don't think there needs to be an inciting incident where William would have to need a reason to kill Charlotte, especially since in both the novels, it's really just out of jealousy. It's not even about his family being broken. It's just about Afton's jealousy, and his obsession with Henry, and also just so yeah, that's kind of for me. That's kind of the case.
Yeah. Okay.
There
so
is
I just remembered what I was going to talk about. I just remembered what I was going to say. So you mentioned in the fourth clause and the Silver Eyes, they reiterate it's 1982. In the fourth clause, her grave is 1983. I think you could necessarily say that because you could say that for a time, they just considered her missing until sometime early 1983, where they're definitively were okay, she's dead.
Yeah, especially because she was violently taken.
Yeah, because she was taken. So
technically, by default, it might take I think it's 5 years for a missing person to be declared dead. But it says that if, depending on circumstance, like the court can just rule it early. So while it is a technicality, I don't see any reason why it would have to be a retcon.
Okay, so
the main reason why I think Charlie died in Fredbear's is there's actually several reasons. One, when FNAF 6 was still being released, you see like this golden bear. Now, and it has the same rainbow, it has the same like little 8-bit version as like Take Cake to the Children. And I find that very suspicious. Like, wait, isn't he supposed to be brown like in Take Cake? And then you see like in when FNAF 6 releases, even though I don't know if it's considered canon or not, but the beginning minigame has you playing as Fredbear, tossing pizzas to the children, and then there's one little line that's very important to not only Security Breach, but to FNAF 6 and FNAF and Fredbear's in general. This place will not be remembered, and the memory of everything that started this can finally begin to fade away, as the agony of every tragedy should. What started it? If it wasn't the bite victim, what was the start?
okay, so you just mentioned that, well, first of all, well, that could still be Freddy, but just looking a bit yellow for some reason. But to be fair, I think Fredbear, like to be fair, I think it wasn't that there was Fredbear and Freddy. I think Fredbear slowly became Freddy, where like he slowly became more brown, and so like they are pretty much the same character, even though
that actually makes sense
they
to
are
me.
not like we don't perceive them as that.
Yeah, I mentioned in my Shadow Freddy video, that was like a main point, was even the Freddy, like so in the teasers leading up to Pizzeria Simulator, I mentioned that Freddy's the Take Cake Freddy from Take Cake to the Children, the one that's present at Charlie's death, he like slowly throughout the teasers he morphs into the Freddy at the start of Pizzeria Simulator. And like I talked about how, like, you know, now we're getting all this Fredbear's memorabilia, and like all the stuff is showing like Freddy as the main face of Fredbear's, and it's like it's a brown Freddy, so like it's very possible that like even if he's not golden, like Take Cake Bear could still very much be Fredbear.
I think
I
think someone point out that those posters, he's still technically like the same type of color as the Spring Bonnie. But the way I interpret it is that the classic characters pre-existed in 83, and that they were at Fredbear's originally. In 83, they split off and got their own location. And I think that can be evidence from like the 20 years line, and just the idea that in 83 you have the classic characters, mask everywhere. You got merch, Fredbear and Friends, and you got the newer lore, which kind of explicitly says they existed before the pizzeria. Which to me, they would have to just have Fredbear's, and then they split off at 83. That's where I interpret it.
Okay, so
well, real quick, I do disagree. I know you're coming from, but I do disagree because for a few reasons. Specifically because we see those posters again in Into the Pit. And those posters, we see that Freddy is like 100% brown, while Spring Bonnie is like explicitly yellow. So I don't think that they're meant to be the same color. And we also see that those same posters are in, I won't talk about Secret of the Mimic too much, but we do see that those posters are in Edwin's factory, and Freddy's is still coming up.
Pretty much, yeah, because Freddy opened in 1983.
okay, so one of you mentioned that this place will not be remembered and blah blah blah. So I actually had a theory a while ago that FNAF 6 was actually a rebuilt Fredbear's. So like it was original Fredbear's made
I actually
into FNAF
came up
6.
with that a long time ago. Then I was proven somewhat correct. I think I actually did that in a Reddit post or something.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I think it's I think Cheeda actually might have voiced that video on my channel.
I did voice a couple videos.
So it's interesting how, first of all, they included the posters in Security Breach, and then they included the FNAF 6, which like the layout, like you could theorize that it kind of looks like FNAF 4. Like you could see it as FNAF 4 being there in theory.
Yeah, I remember that video.
Yeah.
So and so one of my main reasons to believe that Charlie died at Fredbear's is actually in FNAF 2, where we first hear about Fredbear's. We hear first about Fredbear's. We hear that there was a previous location called Fredbear's Family Diner, and then we see
The original restaurant owner, yeah.
and then we see the FNAF. We see Charlie's death in FNAF 2, which we would assume. Well, back then we assumed it was the first location because there is only one animatronic, but it's probably more of a simplification. But because it's a minigame. So like I think referencing that there was a previous location called Fredbear's Family Diner and then showing a minigame that happened at one of the previous locations kinda might be intentional to connect those two things. And so like it would make sense for Charlie's death location to be Fredbear's because of that, I think.
Actually, can I point something out real quick? This is from the first game a little bit, but it's actually something very intriguing. If you get the Crying Child poster, look back to the MCI posters, and what's interesting is it says local pizzeria said to close by year's end, with a crying child, like from FNAF 4 in a sense.
Yeah.
I don't
that's a
know.
great-
That's very weird. They happen at the same.
The crying children's drawings that we see in FNAF 1, I think it's in the right hall, I believe. Those they have the blue shirt, which kind of looks like how Charlotte looks, or I guess the puppet kid looks in FNAF 2, which is, I think, is that what you're kind of talking about?
Well, it's not necessarily though they don't have actually no shirts. They only just have like the head and the crying tears. But when you look at the poster in FNAF 1 and then look back to the MCI posters, at the same time, it's the local pizzeria said to close by year's end. It's like, wait, does this have a connection to FNAF 4 in a sense?
Okay,
It's just an idea. It's nothing to really gawk at, but it's something interesting to know.
Okay, so
yeah, I'm glad you're.
are we finished talking about puppets, I guess, then?
Oh no! Before we move on from the puppet, one last thing. I know this is kind of weird. Maybe this got discussed in your video, Drazam, because I actually didn't finish it. I'm sorry. But what is there anything against the empty room in the crying child's house being the puppet girl?
I like to speak on that. I would say the only thing that goes against. I would say the only thing that really goes against that is like the modern lore, because you have the SL trying to tie it to the Aftons and Fox. It's really just Foxy Bro, because it's like that's Michael Afton, which makes the house the Aftons. But if you isolate to FNAF 4 in 2015, I do think you actually have a lot of evidence. And I'm going to credit here the Unwitted Truth, because he said a lot of what I'm about to say on a live stream.
Oh really?
In the game, you have the Missing Sisters room. It was clearly meant to have an answer. Scott said the game was stolen, so there was an answer for the game, and many people think it's an outside child, but why would it be some no-name outside child? It's an empty room with a broken mangle and a flower picture on the wall. If you notice, that flower picture has a golden center, and that it's missing a petal, unlike all the other flowers outside. Completely unique sprite.
I've always thought that was weird.
Missing a flower, missing a petal, which indicates a whittling or dying flower. The mango toy is also broken, and in FNAF 2, mango was described as a put back together and take apart and put back together attraction. Remind you, Plesio says, "I will put you back together." That has its golden center. It's missing the sixth petal, and you know what petal the Plesio replaces on the outside flowers? The sixth one. And the pup is always kind of like the sixth one among the 5 main kids. So there's that, and even in that final cutscene, you have that spotlight that's over the bite victim and over what was it? Fredbear.
Yes.
And there's a black void with a spotlight. one of the next cutscene you see next night, the box, same void, same spotlight. Notice on that box, 2 golden locks for 2 golden keys. And you have one kid who's potentially implied to be Golden Freddy, and you have potentially the puppet taking the form of a Golden Freddy plush. 2 golden keys for 2 golden characters. And I think a point I saw someone else point out is the Mangle quest seems to be a reference to the broken Mangle toy in Bifid's room. What is the main secret you get when you glitch out of that map? The crying puppet.
Okay, well, that is very complicated and so kind of sounds stretched, but it does kind of make sense. But yeah, so
Something I kind of want to add on to Draz real quick, just to add on to his point. I think I was probably gonna bring this up in a future video, but I'll bring it up here now too. So interestingly, if you do look at it from the perspective that the Fredbear plush is the puppet, and if you look at it from the ending of the game, think about it like this: like imagine you see there's the shot of the Fredbear plush like kneeling in front of the bite victim kneeling in front of the Fredbear plush.
Mhm.
If you actually think about it in a greater context, if this child who looks like the puppet, his identity is revealed to later on go possess Fredbear. This child who looks like the puppet becomes Fredbear. Then you could say this. Then you could look at the Fredbear plush and say, oh, this plush that looks like Fredbear actually turns out to be the puppet. It's kind of like a reverse of roles.
Oh yeah,
And that's getting resolved at the end of the game.
I talked about that. Did you get that from my video? I said 1-to-1.
I think I actually thought of it, and then I watched your video, and I was like, oh, we had the same idea. So
Yeah, I thought it was a role
yeah.
reversal. The bite victim reflects the puppet, who is his protector, friend or sister, and life giver, while the puppet takes the form of Fredbear, who foreshadows who the bite victim will soon become.
Yeah.
okay, so
I think that.
since we are talking about the puppet and Charlie died at Fredbear's, we believe, I think this
Yes.
would be a nice segment to the worst part of FNAF. Can anybody
Oh, boy.
guess?
The ending.
The worst.
The Fazgoo?
No.
Midnight
Andrew
Motorist.
I don't know. The cancer babies from Tails come in a close second, but
Oh, I know. Cancer babies.
Sorry, that was loud.
So, Midnight Motorist. So,
Midnight Motorist! This is
Oh, I
FNAF
love that
4.
game.
so,
This is
Oh,
FNAF
no.
4! I didn't sign up for that.
well,
Did you know? Have you ever scored 1983 exactly on Midnight Motorist?
What?
You get a
What?
special. You get a special screen. I'm just kidding. No, I spent a lot of time doing it, and I got nothing.
the lore.
The lore. Yeah.
I didn't
So-
sign up for Midnight Motorist. I didn't sign up for
Neither
that.
did I.
I protest. I protest against Midnight Motorist being brought up.
I think I have a
Kinda-
good explanation for Midnight
of a good
Motorist,
point,
but
but-
that's gonna be FNAF 6 though.
Well, I think I do too, but like,
No, it's okay.
mine's more controversial.
Well, Spring has a lot to say about it involving FNAF 4.
All right. Well, let Spring have the floor.
okay, so in FNAF 4, we hear the Fredbear plush say, "No, don't you remember what you saw? The exit is the other way. Hurry and leave." So,
Yes.
so first of all, so what did he saw? Like, was that the puppet's death he saw, the Charlie's death he saw, or something else? So what do we believe?
I've been thinking that.
Okay, we have to put this into context. So there's 2 lines. There's remember what you saw, and then you know what will happen if he catches you.
Yeah.
So, and what's interesting about the you know what will happen if he catches you, it's Fredbear, not Spring Bonnie.
Well, I mean, it could be Spring Bonnie, as he is also that
Well,
way, but
something with
Well, I think that just indicate wouldn't that support the idea that William used both suits like the novel trilogy?
That would make sense.
it's a possibility, but so I think someone here already knows where I'm gonna go with, but I believe the same idea as them, but I have like a little different interpretation. But I think this is showing Charlie's death, or remember what you saw, And what we saw? Obviously, dead body, but Shadow Freddy.
Yeah,
I believe
Oh.
that he saw him because
it is on
this
the
will get
film
into
board.
the gameplay section, but who is the main animatronic we see at the end?
Nightmare.
Nightmare.
Shadow Freddy.
Shadow Freddy,
Who is
right?
his
Huh?
name? Shadow Freddy in the files.
Oh, he is. I
Yes.
forgot about that.
And he
Yeah, he
and
is.
then in Ultimate Custom Night, he calls himself "I am your wickedness made of flesh." William's wickedness. So, in a sense, if this connects to Midnight Motorist and FNAF 4, this explains why he's so, like, afraid of, like, let's say he's mostly afraid of all the Springlock suits, but mostly afraid of Fredbear. So, if he's afraid of Fredbear, why is that? It's because he thought he saw him do something. Remember what you saw? You know what will happen if he catches you? That sounds like a warning of, hey, don't get near this guy. You know what will happen if he catches you. Like,
Yeah, I had,
okay.
I have a lot of
had-
thoughts on that.
Yeah, yeah. Draz, do you want to go first?
Yeah, because I might speak a long time on that. I'll try to make it fast. Is that I think the issue with the Charlie one for me is that how you figured it out in the fourth game. That's the big thing for me. And so when I go into it, I go in the context of, like I said earlier, this is the MCI finale game. So when I see that, the context is that it's Resident Fredbear. You know what happens when he catches you. Not only tells you the bite victim knows what happens when a man in a spring suit catches you, which by that point in the series, a man in a yellow suit catching you equals death, the MCI. And so he says that, and then you go to the left, and you go see the shadows. The shadows are purple on the wall,
Yeah.
and they're both purple. Which, mind you, Scott didn't have to do that. He's done black shadows before, and they do work. And
I've always been a believer those are the shadows for sure.
the purple shadows, I think, meant all the Will Spring Body and Fredbear, but they symbolize William having used those suits. This murder suits he's used for the MCI. That's why they're purple. That's why things like the guide point those out, the shadows. And a game has an emphasis on like seeing the shadows. And so, but you think in that exact same scene, like this one after the other, you can go in and you can see purple guy putting a suit onto someone, in the shadows, and he's purple. So, to me, if you combine all those things together chronologically, you have man in a yellow suit catches children, put suit on them. Purple man in yellow suit catches child and dies, put suit on them. I think that's the correlation you're meant to grab from it, which only connects it to the MCI, which is why, like in the fourth minigame, the dude's like, he's trapped in the back room, and remember the idea of the mind of a child, the perspective of it. From his perspective, there is little things of something coming out of the suit. Now, we may know from a player perspective that's probably just wires, but from his perspective, that would look like hair. So he is seen stuck in the room of an empty Fredbear suit, and he's uniquely petrified, and there's something coming out of it. He would only have that type of reaction, be so dead scared, if he knows what happens or it reminds him of something he experienced or saw, which would only really work if he saw William put bodies into the suits, or in some way experienced it.
Yeah, the interesting part about that, I know what Krakoa is going for, because it ties heavily into what I literally what I said about my Shadow Freddy video, because I had linked Shadow Freddy back to Charlotte's death because of the Take Cake minigame connecting to the opening minigame, which had Shadow Freddy in it, Afton's wickedness made of flesh and whatnot, and him becoming Nightmare and so on and so forth. And so I guess if you're running with the idea of bite victim runaway, then Shadow Freddy, he was the one outside the window who lured the bite victim away. He said, oh, follow me, takes him to Charlotte's dead body, and he associates like the purple bear, who he sees as Fredbear, as like, oh, like that's the thing that killed my friend. I know what happens. But the thing about that is two things. It's kind of just like yeah, like you could say that now, but in the context of 4, like if you really think about it, like there's no way that you could correlate those things, because those obviously didn't exist yet. And I do think the thing about him being scared of the shadows is so interesting. I totally forgot about that detail. So I definitely think Shadow Freddy, like, I definitely think he saw something related to Shadow Freddy at some point. Maybe Shadow Freddy's like haunting him, if he was produced by Charlotte's death. So yeah, no, I just thought that was interesting. I forgot.
Oh, dude, that
happened.
reminds me. That reminds me.
Yeah.
The thing I want to say is that his perception of the people in the suits is like a really similar but reversed version of what happens to the kids when they get put into the suits. What happens when they die is they don't remember, they don't recognize the man who actually killed them, but they see the rabbit as their friend, the animatronic character. Yeah. Now, it's the exact opposite. It's very similar to the bite victim, where what he is seeing a man in Fredbear, but is mistaking it as Fredbear the character trying to kill him. I think there's a specific and intentional parallel there, and that the bite victim has the exact same situation, but reversed to the actual dead kids, where while they're dead, they mistake the man in the suit for the character in a different way. He's seeing them in a similar way, where he's seeing the character itself, Fredbear, is alive and trying to kill him, not recognizing it's a dude in a suit. While the case of the children is that they don't know that man in the suit actually is their killer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you all pretty much just said everything that is connected on the pinboard, kinda.
Almost, huh?
With Shadow Freddy, Nightmare, Midnight Motorist. Though some things that I just want to point out.
I feel like you could also. I'm not necessarily by victim runaway per se. I'm not really sure what I am, but you know, there's also other interpretations, such as we could talk about Mike, like the possibility of Michael runaway.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to go over.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something about that.
Yeah, you go ahead.
So, well, I'm gonna say that, but also, first of all, with the Fredbear and the stuffing, and I just thought of something. So, like, back in FNAF 1, Spring Bonnie didn't exist yet. At least, well, he could have existed in Scott's mind, but like, we only knew about Golden Freddy, and like, people theorize that it was the suit that was used to kill the MCI. So
yeah, he slumped over.
So it could be kind of related to that. Second of all, I just want to point out that Shadow Freddy has the same amount of toes as the footprints outside the house in Midnight Motorist.
Yep.
That's worth noting.
That is a good point.
I've been shadow footprints for a while because of that.
He also matches Spring Bonnie.
Just the act of like, yeah, that is true. He does that match Spring Bonnie, but just also like the act of like, the interesting thing about the double thing is like, you could say that it's Afton wearing the glitch trap suit, if that's like a real suit, which it definitely could be. But also, and like the smoke. The funny thing is like, it's a smoking gun for both, because both of them lure away people and have 3 toes, both Shadow Freddy and like Afton in a suit. So
I think the thing there is that it makes me for sure that I think it's Afton in the Spring Bonnie suit, and I think recontextualized to be a sewn version is that it's a Lore Keeper minigame. All these minigames are for the Lore Keeper ending, which is for the gravestones of the murdered kids, the Afton victims. So unless somehow, like, Mike's a gravestone on that hill, or like y'all become BB fish like right now, like it doesn't really work if it's just Afton Midnight Motorist going home and Shadow Freddy's learning the kid. It completely breaks the consistency of there being 2 first minigames are about a kid with a gravestone, but the third one for some reason is not, but is required for the screen of the dead kids. And then Ultimate Custom Night, you have Toy Chica describing something that's very similar to what happens in Midnight Motorist, and also all Toy Chica having, like, at the end, sitting on the same hill of the gravestones, with the same tree, and also in Curse of Dreadbear, Glint Sharp dancing outside the Midnight Motorist house. I think it's, I can't put that aside, it's like, unless... So to me, it's like someone has to integrate the runaway being a gravestone, or I can't personally see the theory that much, because I believe it is consistent, and I don't see any reason why it would not be.
Wasn't there originally Dreadbear walking near the house?
Yeah, it was Dreadbear, like, rising up.
Like Dreadbear silhouette.
Sure. I think so. I thought it was like he rose out. I think it's a different scene.
It was like a giant silhouette that just kind of like appeared. He was like massive, and he would just kind of like stare at you from the distance. And then it later got changed to Glitch Trap dancing on a hill.
Okay, so
Interesting.
about the runaway. So originally I did prefer the Mike runaway theory, but now I'm more because I believe that crying child died first. But now that I believe that Charlie died first, and Midnight Motorist is most likely the same night as the Charlie's death, then crying child should be still alive, and so like, I would, it opens up the possibility, in my view, of crying child being the runaway. But like, so my original, one thing that bothered me about crying child being the runaway kid is that in Midnight Motorist we see the runaway kid lock the door and escape through the window. While in FNAF 4, we see quite the opposite. We see crying child being locked by Mike in his room, with no way to escape. So like, it's kind of like clashes with each other. So that's what bothered me.
That's something that always bothered me about the bite victim like runaway view too. Was like yeah, like this could have been before, but just like in FNAF 4, the whole thing, the first thing that we see in the game as a start is specifically that he's getting locked in his room, and that like causes him to break down. But it's like now, if he's like the runaway in this minigame, it's like we have him literally he's the one that's locking his door, and his father's mad about that. So it just that's kind of weird to me.
Like,
I don't know why.
It kind of connects more to Mike, who locked the door in FNAF 4. So
that is true. I didn't think about that. Yeah, Mike's whole a lot of things. 2 games where Mike is also constantly closing doors on people. So who knows?
Like that connection.
That one.
yeah. Also, there is the soulful guy, how I like to call him in Midnight Motorist, and people connect him to Michael because, well, we know because Michael watched TV in FNAF Sister Location.
He's gray.
Makes sense.
And he's also like he's also gray.
The text is gray, yeah.
Well,
Yes.
Which in FNAF 4 it was gray too.
well, actually,
anyways, Draz, yes, sorry.
I'm the outlier here because I'm still not an Afton in believer.
well, you see,
Which is fine. That's fine.
you see, the thing is, I actually view that text in a different way. I'm sure that everybody sees this as the person talking, but I see it as leave him alone, the person on the couch, the person on the sofa tonight, because he had a rough day.
Thoughts.
So like,
it's like our own thoughts, yeah.
yeah, like, well, not even more like,
Kind of.
well, yeah, kind of like the thoughts, but not exactly thoughts, but like more like a statement to the player.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
While we while the orange guy does know that, and like it just says us to player.
When we talk, it shows we have like orange or yellow text.
That's why I'm saying. So the orange text is the orange guy talking or thinking, while the white text is more as in information to us, as to
I see.
explanation why we are not wanting to bother.
Oh,
the guy.
like if we were to investigate the trash cans or something, like how there's 3 trash cans on the side of the house.
Yes, well,
it would say there's nothing here in gray text.
Yeah, I would just, yeah, that's something that, like, I always saw this as the interpretation of this text, so it being gray didn't really matter to me. But I do want to point out that it looks more similar to white, which is Crying Child's font color
right.
rather than gray Michael's color.
And
I
he
just
has-
want to point that too.
Doesn't he have a square head too?
Well, the square problem doesn't matter, but
But our head's round.
but one of the things
Oh,
that
come on.
I did think about, so like when I believed that Mike was the runaway kid, because well, I simply didn't believe that it was crying child, because well, because the thing that bothered me, and like I assumed that crying child already died by this point, and this was Michael running. I assumed that this was Mrs. Afton sitting on the couch, on the sofa. Which
was a good
to
video.
this day is still my most popular video, ironically.
Yeah, that doesn't. How many views does it have?
yeah.
Like 30K?
18K, I believe.
Oh, sorry. that's still
like-
a lot, dude.
It's my most viewed video on my channel, and like I have made like a whole theory about how well Jake is like the son of the bite victim in this parallel universe in the Fazbear Fright, and that considering that cancer can be like genetically like passed on to the kids, what if Mrs. Afton had a tumor, and that's why she's bald in Midnight Motorist?
Oh, that makes sense.
And well, it could be just a stylistic choice, but like we like in like it just like unlike orange guy, we see that the person is wearing gray, has tan skin, eyes, so like it's weird to not include the hair as well. So
Yeah.
and we see that the person is adult size, as he perfectly fits into the sofa, and he doesn't look like a child.
Yeah, they're like the
So-
size that we are.
Yeah, the weird thing that always like bothered me and a lot of other people about like any interpretation which involved like Mike being the gray person, was always just like was always the idea that like the way he just says, well, going back to the idea of like that he is the one who says leave him alone, then it maybe he isn't, but if he, I feel like the couch potato is saying, I call him the couch potato because of Matt Pat, thanks for that.
Oh,
I prefer to call it sofa
but-
guy.
sofa guy.
But the sofa guy, like if he is the one, I believe he is the one that's saying like leave him alone tonight, he's had a rough day, because for me it's like he says he, and then we go and then it segues to the guy going to the bedroom, and he says he again, so it seems like they would be talking about the same person.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But the issue that always bothered me about Couch Potato being Michael or someone like that is because like just the way he talks to Orange Man, if this man's like, I don't know, like just like if in the scenario of like Afton Midnight Motorist or something like that, it's like you don't talk to like Michael's, so like the way we see him compose himself in such a location where he's like, oh father, that's me, Michael, I did it just like you asked me, like the way he like that personality just doesn't match with the
He
Couch
sounds
Potato,
more
where he's like, oh, yeah,
respectful in SL.
he sounds more
Yeah.
respectful. Couch Potato's kind of like you don't talk to
This
your
sounds more like a
like
wife talking.
you don't talk to your abusive dad that way, in that scenario. It's like that's not how you talk to your abusive dad like that. So I don't know. That's something that always bugged me about like the Couch Potato being someone who was like Michael or anyone like that.
Yeah, at
So-
midnight, wouldn't he be working, Michael?
Well, technically, if you take into account that if you go after Midnight Motorist, then this would be before the bite victim ever gets scared, so the dynamics are different, and it is very normal in like an abusive household for like an older sibling to be protective of their younger sibling, even if they're mean to them, because there's like
Yes.
this idea that like I would
Yeah,
rather
and that
be
is-
mean to them
that
than
is-
let my father hurt them.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
Okay, so okay, now that we talked about this, I think we can slowly come back to the nightmare, and then slowly segment from nightmare to the nights. But like
Oh boy.
the twisted
boy.
night, the twisted nights. That's actually a good name for the fan game. The twisted ones. So first of all, in the Twisted Ones novel, we see Nightmare as the character on the cover,
Yeah.
which is an
Yep.
interesting choice. And well, first of all, Nightmare, like in the Twisted Ones, we see animatronics that use illusion discs to look more nightmarish, you can say.
Yeah.
And now we know from the Didaphobia, I think, that the nightmares are not nightmarish, but they look nightmarish because of gas in Didaphobia at least. But back then we didn't know about the gas or anything that, so it was an interesting connection. So back then everybody theorized that nightmares used the illusion discs.
We actually did have
so-
some evidence back in SS location that gas was used.
Well,
Because as some people point out
yeah,
occasionally, is that there were blatant gas pipes all across the area, especially in the private room area where you look at the cameras. So there were theories back in the day that, like, hey, the nightmares are caused by hallucinogenic gas.
Yeah.
Just Didaphobia
Can I
confirmed
actually
the
say
theory.
something?
You can go ahead.
So, one thing that I did notice, so in Didaphobia, we only have the 4 animatronics, and then in the security logbook, we only hear about a Fredbear nightmare being in dreams. And now that's a little bit awkward because that means Fredbear and Nightmare are not the mannequins that we see in FNAF 4 with the 4 main animatronics, Foxy, Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy, and the cupcake. Never forget the cupcake.
And the
But
cupcake.
they're only there in the experiment rooms, not necessarily in a nightmare. You can say they were in someone else's nightmare, but the only ones that were considered dreamlike states is Nightmare Fredbear and Nightmare himself. So I'm wondering if the Nightmare being there is also representing like how it's not real, like it's a manifestation of evil and twisted in a sense. Nightmare is I am your wickedness made of flesh, and we see this weird combination of the twisted ones, like all these animatronics have like bubbles and stuff, and like twisted versions in a sense.
I once again, I'm coming back to my Shadow Freddy video. It's so funny how like all this stuff that we're talking about comes back to that. In that video, I had gone over this exact thing, and I had actually linked Nightmare not to the actual Twisted Ones themselves being on the cover, but actually because Shadow Freddy is in the Twisted Ones, which is I actually linked him to that.
That is true because he was the one luring the kids to FNAF 2 in a sense, or the underground, I'll call it.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to mention. The Shadow Freddy in the graphic novel and the novel.
Yeah, it was the little shadow thing that was in the woods. Which also, can I point that out? He's luring the kids in the woods. What do we see in Midnight Motorist?
I guess it's a fair connection. I don't really see it all that much because it seems to me that Shadow Freddy is kind of helping him in the Twisted Ones, certainly taking him to where Charlie's being at.
Yeah, but you could argue that it's kind of like a follow me situation where he's also taking them to Afton because that's where he is also.
Yes.
Well, I think in Follow Me that Shadow Freddy was doing the right thing because by dismantling them, it caused the souls to be free and them to chase Afton to the suit. So if I was to compare to that, I would think that is a case of Shadow Freddy helping people rather than helping Afton directly.
The wickedness made of flesh thing doesn't add up though, to be honest. Because it sounds like it's just evil, while Shadow Bonnie, in a sense, is actually the good one, helping the kids and even trying to fend off everyone from collecting Remnant, like Afton did.
Well, Shadow Freddy can be evil, but not necessarily be helping Afton. As in, say we go with the Eleanor theory, right? Eleanor is kind of just depicted, for example, as an evil than Afton, more evil than Afton. So, from her perspective, you could imagine her helping the kids because she knows by doing so and getting Afton springlocked, it's going to create more agony and suffering down the line. rather than acting to do what he wanted. So you could argue from those type of juxtapositions that Shadow Freddy, Eleanor, whoever it is can be evil or can be a mix, like say manifest from the MCI, but it has a mind of its own and it wants to inflict more agony. And it's like, okay, I help kids. After he dies, he gets spring locked, more agony.
Yeah, you could argue that you could argue the idea, because in the video I also presented the idea that like that's the reason like Shadow Freddy was even like assisting Afton with the dismantling, was just because he wanted to get to the agony of the remnant inside of the animatronics potentially. But also like you could also say at the same time, like after he does that and maybe he sucks it, because notice this is actually ties into Eleanor. Notice how in Frights, Eleanor, one of the things she does is that she goes over to the Stitch Wraith, she goes to Jake, and she literally like zaps all the agony out of him, and then she doesn't she doesn't hurt him or anything, she just kind of dips. So I'm wondering like if like you could interpret it as like in Shadow FNAF 3's Follow Me, Shadow Freddy, he lures all the kids, they get dismantled, he like sucks all the agony out of that, and then at the same time he's also helping the kids because they can corner Afton, get him spring locked, and then he can just feed off the agony off of that. So it's kind of just like it's an agony buffet for him if you think about it.
I guess so. I guess that makes sense. But how do you explain him in FNAF 4? I guess.
I think it's personal. I think in my personal opinion with like FNAF 4 in that context of him showing up, I think he's specifically feeding off, like, because FNAF 4 seems to heavily like lean into the like how Michael feels about the bite and his like painful memory of that, because you see like the hospital rare Easter eggs, and like he's being terrorized. So I think like say this is after FNAF 1 or FNAF 3, and he followed Mike home, and he's the one causing the nightmares, because his name in the game is quite literally Nightmare, so that could link him as being like the literal source of the nightmares.
I think
True, and I think what's interesting about those two in particular is they're, in a sense, what the crying child fears, because Fredbear chomped him, obviously, and then Nightmare is like a literal reverse version of Fredbear, has the yellow hat and bow tie, and what everyone thought about when originally was the Nightmare is a manifestation of death or whatever, when the bite victim still existed as the main player. But if Michael is the main player, is he just manifesting Fredbear as like his guilt, as along with Nightmare like just turning shadow and just like, ooh, yummy, agony, and then just goes from there?
Yeah, I think it kind of works both ways, because like like Nightmare is always Shadow Freddy is also always associated with Fredbear kind of regardless. So, but I think like him specifically like turning into a form that resembles Nightmare Fredbear is like him feeding on how Michael is experiencing it, because like notice that Nightmare Fredbear shows up specifically like on night 5, which is like the same night that we're going to see the bite happen. So if like this whole thing is about like Michael's guilt and the mental fear and anguish and pain that he's feeling from remembering that incident, and what he's in, like potentially that's why Shadow Freddy like takes on that appearance, I would think.
I do want to point out about Nightmare, he does appear when the box appears.
What I would say is, when I interpret the gameplay, is that it's induced by a spirit. I believe Auction Theory, the Mike brought the plushies items from the auction home, and that the puppet, who's Plush Bear, is punishing Mike for what he did, and that Nightmare, since he's put into the bite victim's shoes, Nightmare, who is Shadow Freddy, represents William in the yellow bear costume. Shadow Freddy represents William in Fredbear. So Nightmare represents that. Bite victim's true fear. Bite victim's fear was of Fredbear, but his true fear, stemmed from William using Fredbear. Shadow Freddy.
So here are some voice lines from UCN from Nightmare. You will not
Yep.
be spared. You will not be saved. Well, I mean, that's just a regular line for Usain, really. Nothing special here, but
Yep.
then there's the shadow fears me. That's an interesting line.
That one's a little bit odd, honestly.
That one,
People would
oh my gosh.
like Eleanor or
This-
even like Shadow Bonnie.
Okay, this is the one time. This is the one time I'm gonna segue into Andrew, and that's it. This is the one
Uh-oh.
time. So in the Man in Room 1280, Andrew specifically can appear as a shadowy child, and I think at least one or at several points in the story in the Man in Room 1280, people specifically do call Andrew the Shadow. But that's all I'm gonna say. I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just saying. That's
also-
the one time. That's all you're gonna get out of me about Andrew. That's all you're.
It
gonna get
also
out of me.
happens to the puppet in that one story.
You mean you're the band?
You're the band.
You're the man. Yeah, so the puppet's
I
also
don't- I
referred to
don't
as
per-
the shadow.
I don't personally think that was the puppet. Just because the
Where
way
do
it
you?
describes the way it describes the shadow, it says like it definitely is humanoid, but it specifically has like it's sort of like defined as like having a head and shoulders, and like the puppet does
Your
technically
days are
have
numbered.
those. The puppet does technically have those, but like I don't know. I just don't know if that was like specifically the puppet, but that's just me.
Okay, so the next line.
So in a sense, Nightmare is basically the manifestation of agony, and Michael is most likely manifesting him since he's feeling like all this guilt and everything still. That's why Nightmare exists, and maybe that's even why he's like in a sense translucent. He's building up over time
You know
as
what?
he keeps on feeding.
You know what? If Nightmare is a manifestation of agony from Michael, it actually kind of makes sense that why nightmares. Why nightmares have like teeth, like Nightmare and Nightmare Fredbear have teeth on their bellies, because, well, they are like Fredbear is the one that causes the bite, so like it would make sense for the teeth and like the mouth to be like the main point of Nightmare Fredbear and Internal Nightmare.
Right, and also, I don't know if you can say loose a little bit, like, you know how like the Fredbear's jaw is like broken and everything, like it's all chomping and everything in the Ultimate Custom Night, but it's also in a sense representing what Shadow Freddy looks like in FNAF 2, and I think in FNAF 3, if you believe that, but his jaw's like broken, and I'm wondering if it's supposed to be manifesting like this is the thing that bit your brother, and it still has like the teeth, the blood, and then the broken jaw, and he's just
The
manifesting
broken-
like,
yeah.
hey, I'm what you did.
The
I
broken jaw you're thinking of, that was in FNAF World, I believe.
There's FNAF World, and then there's FNAF 2, where the jaw is like in a sense broken, like Golden Freddy's jump scare in FNAF 2.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's broken. It's kind
Like
of just hanging open.
Yeah,
Yeah, like it was kind of broken.
that's a good detail.
Like the jaw broke.
Like it's not fixed in place, as in.
Right. Because if it was the Fredbear suit in a sense, let's say it was, then the jaw just breaking because of the grindchild's skull, and yeah, it has a chance that can break easily, so that jaw hanging down makes sense.
Okay, so
Hello,
who's that?
it is
Oh my
I.
gosh,
Wait a
it is
minute.
Sandwich Man.
It's
Welcome.
Oh, Sandwich Man. 1 second. Let me
Decided to show up.
let
Glad you could make
me
it.
let me add you to the stream layout.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
By the
machine
way-
man.
By the way, just because I think it's relevant, I do think at some point we should probably get to like, I don't know. It depends if like we all really like. Do we all have like a specific idea of like what we think the bite victim is, or do we all just kind of agree?
I
like,
think he's one Golden Freddy.
We're gonna come back to that
Is
actually later.
duo
Okay.
in a sense.
That's like I know that's like a big discussion.
We kind of
point.
been talking about we kind of talked about Midnight Motorist for a long time, and now finally talking about the nightmares. I kind of wanted to ask earlier, like, does anyone have their own unique? Because we talked about Fazbear briefly, but we never really went into like what is everyone's particular theories on it, right? We briefly discussed Charlie, but we didn't go into anything else.
Okay, this one I have to really explain a little bit, and then I'll let others explain. But I think it's a combination. So, in the first 3 nights or 4 nights, not 4 nights, in a sense 4 nights, because whatever that whole crap is. The Fredbear plush is speaking to him like he's there and all. And then in FNAF's in the ending, the plush is speaking to him again, but the different text color is important.
Yeah.
Now,
it is.
what I'm wondering is night 0 to 3, yes, I'll call it night 0, don't judge me. I'm wondering if that's supposed to be William speaking,
Well-
or it's still Charlie, because the eyes still follow you. And there's one important detail that actually is overlooked a little bit, but the girl with the plush trap thing says, "Where's your plush? Mine's Spring
Yeah.
Bonnie."
I'm like you
He
right
doesn't
now
have one
are-
on him.
You are right now going, I would say, way ahead because this is all of this. I kind of wanted to talk relating to the when we're gonna talk about FNAF World, Happiest Day, and all of that. So well, and I want to first finish the nights segment of FNAF 4 since we are.
But I like
to
your
be-
enthusiasm.
To be fair, I am actually shocked that we somehow went to the night segment first rather than the happiest day and all of that segment on the right. So like
You're
because
right,
like
huh? We took the left path.
yeah, like I expected us to go to the right when we when we were starting to discuss the ending, but somehow we ended up going left because we first went to the crying puppet, then the Midnight Motorist. So that's interesting how everything went that way. So let's continue discussing the left side of the board, and then we're gonna talk about the everything that you just mentioned on the right.
Yeah.
So continuing with the nightmare voice lines. I'm your wickedness made of flesh. So as we discussed, that is that could relate to the agony. And then there's I am here to claim what is left of you, which I think could fit with what one of you said, with how he is like Eleanor trying to collect agony. And then the last
He is a manifestation of agony that is actually. Oh, what is going on?
What?
In chat.
in chat?
Brazil. Okay.
What happened?
He was just showing he was in Brazil. That's all. Wait,
What
what
the-
is?
Uh,
I don't know. It was okay. Spamming. That's wonderful.
He loves Brazil.
okay, whatever.
Yeah, Brazil's the
Brazil?
place, I guess.
This
Anyway,
this might be a good time to take us to the breaker room. Do you want to go to the breaker
We will,
room?
we
Oh
will,
yeah,
we will.
everyone, the nightmares are not dreams. Suspicion something.
We will,
Oh,
I just,
no,
but I first want to
no.
finish talking about Nightmare Shadow Freddy.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was gonna
ahead.
kind of relate to that, but go on.
Yeah, we will after that definitely talk about the breaker room. That's the definitely
good,
next. Like you can see on the pinboard, it's like right next to it.
Yeah, I didn't want to skip it.
Yeah. So again, the nightmare. The last voice line from Yusen is, "I will vomit you back to relieve your night horror," which I don't think relates to anything really. But just a creepy voice. That's just a weird voice line.
Wait.
What?
Wait. I just realized something.
What?
It's just about that line, I will vomit you back to relive your horror, which like implies that he ate you.
Yeah.
And Bite Victims gets
Yeah.
bit by Fredbear, which is like a
Yeah, that's
dang, I
kind of
didn't
the
even
point
make
here.
that connection before.
I've never made that connection.
I didn't even make that connection until just now.
Yeah,
But that's
voice was so
only
distorted,
for,
I've never
Ultimate
heard that.
Custom Night, though.
yeah. I
Yeah,
actually
but also-
reading
but
this
also,
voice line
like-
for the first time right now.
But
also,
I
like-
think it's also representing like he's feeding off the agony, and he is going to, in a sense, what he says, vomit you back to relieve your horror. Like he's going to eat your agony, bring it back to you.
Oh,
To
hello.
relive.
Okay,
back.
so I guess we can actually also think about the Nightmare Fredbear's voice lines while
I think that's what it
we're
means.
on this. What?
Well, while we're on the topic of Nightmare's lines, do we want to actually talk about Fredbear's because they also relate to FNAF?
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. I didn't. Sorry.
Let's see how many times you can be pulled apart. So that's the. I think we should come back to that when we're gonna talk about the putting back together, Happy's Day, and etc. But that's definitely a reference to "I Will Put You Back Together" by Fredbear, and now Nightmare Freddy mentions pulling you apart. I assure you, I am very real. So that's very interesting line.
Suspicious.
So like, kind of like
I disagree.
disagree with what?
I disagree. I assure you I'm very real. That's the difference. That's actually the contrast that suggests no, you weren't real before, but you are now.
I mean, yeah.
He wasn't real in a sense. He wasn't like in a sense he wasn't actually there. He was still like within Michael's dream in a sense. But now it's
Or
in a
hallucination.
sense since it's Ultimate Custom Night, this is Fredbear saying, "Yeah, I am very real. I'm right in front of you there, William. Goodbye."
Yeah, it is a very interesting line.
It's an interesting line, but I don't think it needs to be overcomplicated.
Yeah.
Like, you weren't real before, you are now.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, he was either a hallucination or just a dream character, depending what you
Yeah,
believe.
he
and
does say
the
this
next
time-
one.
He does say this time there's more than an illusion to fear. So.
Yeah,
That's
this
also
yeah.
interesting.
This time there's more, and that kind of actually like sounds similar to the theory that the illusion discs were the thing that made the nightmares and not the gas, but
Well,
the
this
gas
also
works. Yeah.
proves that Fredbear wasn't an illusion at all, because he says this time there's more than an illusion to fear.
Yeah.
Like he's not an illusion compared to the original
Well,
nightmares.
He,
I mean, we
well,
even
he
hear
was an illusion
Nightmare.
or something, but now in UCL he's not an illusion. I think that's what.
Well,
For
no,
me,
he
for me the
actually
idea is
wasn't
that
in FNAF 4 either. He was a dream state. That's all.
I mean,
Because
Well, I
he
was-
was arrested in FNAF 4's nightmares. I mean, the experiment room. He was never mentioned in the book or even in the He's a literal freaking head. I mean, what more can you do with that? And he constantly appears left and right, like he's
Yeah.
teleporting. That isn't real.
I'll admit that part is kind of hard to explain.
well, I think
Well, another
I think
thing
it's.
that I should
I was just gonna say that. Never mind.
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say
The,
an alternative thing for. Yeah, you got
Sorry.
it.
So another thing that I should point out that I think everyone knows this already, but the laugh is either of a crying child or a child laughing and crying in a sense. And this is why I
isn't
also
it the
think
same
it's
as Michael's laugh
Michael.
in FNAF 4?
Yeah, the interesting thing about FNAF 4's gameplay and just in general, but this also ties back to Fredbear, is like FNAF 4's gameplay, like it does heavily mirror in a lot of ways the like the FNAF 4 like mini games. Like it definitely ties into that. It's not just like aside from Michael's guilt, but also like things that happen in the mini games also reflect like what happens in the nights. Like night 2 we get the Foxy jump scare jumping out behind the TV, and then night 2 Nightmare Foxy can show up and like go into your closet. He snaps you like the way Michael does in the mini games. And then like in FNAF, like Michael's constantly laughing to the crying child, laughing at the crying child throughout the mini games, and then oh yeah, now you're Michael, you're the one who's like in the powerless position, and Fredbear, who like the bite victim's connected to, he's the one laughing at you. So it's kind of just like that, I think.
I'm wondering, like I said, I'm wondering if the Nightmare Fredbear laugh is like it's him laughing, but it's also like laughing and crying at the same time. I don't know if anyone heard that a little bit, but
Yeah,
there's
if
also
you
multiple.
if you speed up the laugh or you raise the pitch, it kind of sounds like a child. It's kind of hard to tell, but it does kind of also sound like a child crying a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm saying that.
I disagree. I think it just sounds like laughing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe I'm just saying, like, in a sense, it does sound like crying if you think about it too much, I guess. But it is still mostly a child laughing. You could interpret that as the bite victim, or even like the Michael, like, because Fredbear, when he chomps the child, he's laughing. Him and his
It
friends are
definitely
laughing.
sounds more like laugh than a crying. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just checked.
that's kind of why I'm kind of leaning towards like the idea that like, oh, it's a role reversal. Michael terrorized the bite victim with Foxy, and he's constantly laughing at him with him and his friends. And then like, oh, now you're Michael, you're the one who started this. Represents the bite victim, or just like the thing that Fredbear really just. I feel like represents the bite victim, but also just like the bite, like Michael, like what Michael did, and now he's getting laughed at. So yeah, I kind of agree with what you're saying.
Wait, how much of us affirm Shadow Victim?
Shadow
Not
victim?
me. Oh, Shadow victim.
Shadow. No, not Shatter.
Victim.
Shadow.
No.
So as in, like in Gacha life, people usually represent Chris often being Shadow Freddy.
Don't do it dirty like that. Don't do it dirty like that. Don't do that. Vicky.
Yes.
I don't believe the theory. Don't do it dirty like that.
I actually have I've always been confused really on how Bite Victim is there as well as Shadow Freddy with Nightmare, because that's clearly Shadow Freddy, like as Nightmare.
Yeah,
clearly. So who's there? Are they there simultaneously? Like why?
I guess it depends on what you believe, because some people believe that like Nightmare Fredbear or like Nightmare are actually like that. I think that's Nightmare Victim is what you're talking about. I think where it's like the theory that he's either Nightmare Fredbear or he's just Nightmare or both.
Well, it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear to me that Shadow Freddy is Nightmare. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah, he is. That's like practically confirmed, I think. But
exactly.
I guess it just depends on whether you believe like the bite victim is like literally there, like haunting Michael, which is I think it's called FNAF 4 Agony is like the name for that theory. But yeah, I guess it just kind of depends on like how you interpret that. Because if you think he's physically there, then what you're talking about is like you could make the argument that like he's literally Fredbear or he's literally Nightmare. I personally don't exactly think his soul's there, so I don't think he's like Nightmare or Shadow Freddy.
Okay, so why is he dreaming like that then? That's always something I've always been so confused on. If he's not there, why is Mike dreaming that way?
Yeah, so I guess does anyone else want to put the
like you're asking like why is the nightmares happening? You know, you're basically asking.
Yeah. If he's not there.
What I believe is that the auction theory that this is after FNAF 3, and that basically after Mike either does FNAF 3 shift, I don't think he's a guard, but if he was, it'd be after that. Either way, he goes to the auction and he buys the auction items, and those are kind of represented by plushies, the hats, some things you saw in the teasers. In Plush Shop, for example, was a terrible thing in a small package. I believe those are the terrible things he brought home.
Wait, so like the 35 a.m.?
I guess I wasn't really thinking of that, but
like so that kind of simulates the FNAF 4, and it also like Ella doll was bought there on the auction, and that's what started the whole.
Yeah, I guess somewhat. What I believe is that the nightmares are being induced by a spirit, and that I don't necessarily think they're dreams, but it can work if they're dreams anyway. But is that a spirit is punishing Michael for what he did in the past. by placing him to the shoes of his brother and make him leap. Whoever's doing that, that is very loud.
Are you okay, Sandwich?
Sandwich man, are you cooking
What?
a sandwich?
I think a tornado just ate him.
I'm literally right here, bro.
It sounded like you were Chica from FNAF 1
It sounded
in
yeah.
the kitchen.
Yeah,
So,
it was
Sound
like,
like he was-
Oh,
Paper's
no, that
flying.
was my chair. That was my chair. That was my chair.
Oh.
So what I was saying
Sounded
is
like
that
you fell upstairs.
what I believe is that a spirit is punching Michael by placing him in the shoes of his brother and making him live a nightmare's version of his experiences. That's why the trailer will say, "What game do you think you're playing?" That's directed to Michael. Michael played deadly games with the Bifin that got him killed. The nightmares reflect the Bifin's experiences, but in a nightmarish way. And so I believe since the plush bear, I think the plush bear is the puppet is the one who was punishing Michael for what he did to the bite victim. And that is effectively why the nightmares are happening to begin with, and that things symbolize the bite victim's experiences being reflected onto Michael. That's why I think Shadow Freddy Nightmare represents William in the yellow suit costume of Fredbear.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. With auction theory, you can also like it really can work in a lot of ways. Like you could say, oh, it's the puppet because the puppet was in FNAF 3. You could say it was like specifically Shadow Freddy because Shadow Freddy was also there. So or you could say the bite victim was technically there because it seems like he somehow is there because I believe he's the person we play as in the Happiest Day.
Okay,
The
so
game's like setting it up. So yeah, I feel like it could go several ways.
okay, so another option of why the nightmare could be in Mike's nightmares is Shadow Freddy, because the action theory. But another option is if it is after FNAF 3, we do see like Michael does encounter Shadow Freddy in FNAF 3 sometimes, like in the corner,
Yes.
if we play as
there's
Michael.
Also Plush Trap. There's also Plush Trap, depending on how you interpret him.
What?
Depending on if you interpret it after FNAF 3, you could say that Plush Trap has a connection to FNAF 3. I think.
I
as
mean,
you
yeah,
brought
but
that
like,
up,
I'm saying that Shadow Freddy like could literally have a touch onto Mike when Mike visited FNAF 3. Like,
yeah.
I am
um,
curious how you think Ditto factors into this.
We're gonna talk about Ditto when we're gonna talk about the whole experience and etc.
All right.
But
Sounds good.
first of all, someone here mentioned that the laugh in FNAF 4 sounds like crying, and I just checked Fredbear's laugh, and it sounds like laugh when sped up. But
Exactly.
Okay.
while Mike's laugh, at least what we think is Mike's laugh in the minigames, when sped up, does sound like crying a bit. So you kind of mix them up, but that is interesting how it sounds like crying when sped up in the minigames.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
What is this? Interesting.
I just checked. I can send the link in the Discord.
Sweet.
Here we go. And no one. Here we go. Okay. Now, we were actually reading the nightmare lines, I think. So, we know who our friends are, and you are not one of them is a reference to the ending line with Fazbear. So let me put you back together, then take you apart all over again. Again, is that relating? In FNAF World, even though it's not serious, but like the nightmare says why this is why you wake up, which makes sense. It's a nightmare. Then Nightmare Fredbear is getting down to business, which doesn't really relate to anything, I think. And then Shadow Freddy. What did he say? I think it's, yeah, I will eat your soul, which...
I will eat your soul.
Yeah,
I will eat your soul.
that is an interesting one. But
Why he's representing like agony and all that. He's literally feeding off of your
life force.
darkness, your life force.
Yeah.
Because Toby does get weaker in the books, and so he's most likely feeding off of Michael because, and maybe Michael's getting weaker in a sense, but he has to fight off Shadow Freddy to stop it.
Okay.
Actually, that brings up an interesting detail. I guess if you believe that such location happens before FNAF 3, and you believe Michael's already been scooped, I guess it depends. And like you could say that like, oh, Mike's full of remnant now, so maybe that's why Shadow Freddy's attached to him. But that's just me.
You could argue that.
Well, I think now we can go
Indeed.
over to the games and to the gameplay, to the main gameplay, and talk about the whole thing about them. So, first of all, Gitaphobia has the FNAF 4 gameplay basically, and it's connected to sister location. And in sister location, we see, first of all, in the breaker room, we see the map where we see the FNAF 4 gameplay and minigame maps. And we also see cameras set up in the private room on the screens of the FNAF 4 room. So, yeah, well, let's talk about that, I guess. Does anybody have anything to talk about this?
I'll talk last. Because I have some stuff.
Are you just asking like what do you think the gameplay is?
Well, not really. Just the connection to Gitaphobia, the setup cameras, the who are like all of that stuff. Basically.
I guess with Diraphobia, I think Diraphobia is trying to show again that the nightmares are not just dreams, that it is something that is real. The experiment chambers are real. That was why this location showed the breaking room map. It's why it showed it. It's because it wanted to show that, hey, Mike thought he's going through something dreamlike, but he's kind of discovering, wait, it actually happened. And what Diraphobia is showing is that is real once more. And that what William likely intended to do is that he wanted to use it on Michael. But he did it not as up for debate. But since the room parallels Mike's shift, his gameplay is clearly meant for Mike. So he might have constructed the room sometime maybe after FNAF 1. Or I guess earlier, but I don't see how it would match FNAF 1 if it was before FNAF 1. But makes those rooms, kidnaps the kids, and experiments on them to kind of test it, research, and eventually use it on Michael.
Okay, and how?
I think the experiments happened in 1983, but after the bike victim.
What?
I'm asking do you think the experiments are real, which likely are, do you think they started in 1983 or after the MCI?
After FNAF 1, because they match FNAF 1's layout and gameplay style, so I don't see why William would time predict and like make something that just happens to perfectly match the feature location and Mike's like night guard shift.
Well, the reason why I asked that is because the kid in Didophobia was 7 when he was kidnapped, and then was 10 years later before sister location would start, but after FNAF 1 in a sense.
Oh yeah, because of the radio stuff too, it would have to be like mid-late 90s that he got kidnapped, which would mean that the story takes place early mid-2000s.
Well, that would have to imply that the because it said the experiments were abandoned for quite some time, and he was 7 when he was kidnapped, and everyone interpreted that it was most likely in the 1980s. And then because everyone assumed in Didophobia that this is confirming that sister location has not happened yet, and this is after FNAF 1, because the sister location animatronics are still there in the FNAF sister location room area.
Okay,
We're talking about Ditto here?
I think it mentions there that like cell phone stuff is like he got kidnapped around the time cell phone stuff started becoming prominent, which would have to be mid-late 90s. That would be why.
So I've gone over that actually before. I think it's pretty clear that he says he didn't actually say that, but he did say if cell phone technology had existed like by that time, then we could have been able to do so. So that suggests that it exists now, but it didn't exist by the time he was kidnapped, implying that it was developed between that time, and that would suggest that he was like kidnapped in like 1994 or something, and then in 2004 he escaped or something like that. That's kind of what I've narrowed it down to. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I have very specific thoughts on the experiment rooms and how they tie into FNAF 4, and even like the Fredbear plush Easter egg in the experiment room. Like I have very specific views on those. I'm actually not going to comment on that right now in this stream, but I do have very
Okay.
specific views that
Okay.
I'm going to share at a different time.
Does anybody here believe that the nightmare gameplay happened to Crying Child?
No.
No.
I don't personally believe it.
Okay. And
I'm starting to think it might be just Michael, like maybe figuring it out or whatever. But
I
it
think
could
it's
just
pretty
be him,
clearly
like.
Michael.
And does anybody here believe that the nightmare gameplay happened once to Michael? Or like either through nightmare or physically? Or like...
I think you could make the argument. I guess it depends on how you interpret, because there's the theory called Mike experiments, where it's like Mike was actually like physically like after the bite was like put in the experiment rooms and you know tormented by Afton or whatnot, and then later on he's having dreams about it down the line. But
Yeah, that makes sense
so
to
I
me.
guess I'm not saying I personally believe that, but you could interpret it that way.
Okay, so most of everybody here believes that Michael only seeing like the nightmare memories of the nightmare gameplay or something like that.
Some people actually do. Actually, I just remembered this. Some people do think that like I don't personally believe Crying Child went through it, but like some people do think like maybe the Crying Child did go through it, and then like if he's like a spirit in FNAF 4 that's like causing the nightmares, then he's like causing Michael to go through what he went through. That's just like I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not saying I believe that, but I just still think that it's interesting to look at different views like that. So
Okay, so throughout FNAF 4, we can notice Easter eggs by the bag, which are a IV bag, flowers, and a pill bottle. What are they doing there?
I think the
pills
IV
are
was
sleeping pills.
the pills are most likely so in the movie it is implied that the pills are there to like for him to go to sleep and then dream about try to figure out what happened. But I think it is most likely something to do with that. Maybe he's trying to like get in touch with his brother, but the dreams
pills
are...
Yeah, I think the pills are pretty clearly sleeping pills, and it's one of the reasons why I think it proves that Mike is the player of FNAF 4. Like, there's a lot of reasons why you can like suggest that. I think that's like really strong evidence.
That is a great connection.
And
I kind of agree there.
yeah, because
The
if you think about it from like a perspective point, like he's looking at that from like the bedside or like in front of the bed, and it's like based on the fact that like you know I think Cheeda, you and me talked about this the other day or something, or no, maybe sorry, it was someone else. But like
might have been
in
someone
FNAF
else.
4, like we see those mini games or those Easter eggs specifically like on the bedside, and it's like I don't think that like if he were playing as like anyone other than Mike, like Michael would have seen those because he was in the hospital with bite victim, so he would have been like near the bedside and like seen something like an IV drip or flowers there. But like it's implied that after bite victim got bit while he was in the hospital, he was in like some kind of like state where he like Michael wasn't even sure that he could hear him. So I don't see how it's possible that like someone like let's say bite victim would have like seen those things. So I definitely think like that's some of the strongest evidence that we are playing with the older brother. So
I think it is the flowers and the IV is like from the hospital. Like maybe the flowers are something that Mike himself gave to the Crying Child before he died, and then the IV is just like him remembering that he was the one that caused this in the first place, and obviously the pills are just like sleeping pills. Like maybe all these years he's been depressed and like angry with himself, guilt. So he's got to take those pills for either depression or sleeping pills. Either way, they are for him to calm down in a sense.
Okay.
Maybe they're Fazgoo pills. Hey, I'm just kidding. But maybe I'm starting to believe there is really a connection between the sequence being a nightmare and the sleeping pills being there. That really is starting to get stronger in my head.
Here's the thing: the pills, like, they're so clearly a reference to the movie. Like, it's so
you
clear.
mean the movies? You mean the movies are reference to the FNAF 4?
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, it's so clear that they're the same. They have this. They have the same. They look identical if you look like at them side by side.
Yeah.
Especially within that trailer that we got before the movie. Like, they look identical. So I think that they have the same role.
Yeah, when it comes to FNAF 4, we take what we can get, from with answers. So
yeah,
that's like one of the few things we'll ever get for FNAF 4, I believe, as like help. So I do think we should take it like exactly the way Sandwich is saying.
Okay.
And oh, sorry, no, Draz, you can go ahead.
It
Whoever
was
trying
me.
to speak.
So I wanted to say that, like, a while back, I had an idea of what if Willem is like the IV bag is like full of liquid remnant, and Willem is like injecting Michael with it or something like that. That was an idea, this was that Michael was in the experiments here, that it's not like an actual nightmare, and he is being injected with remnant here or something like that through that IV bag. That was just an idea, that's not really a theory, I believe.
I think those are more the simpler ones to explain because they're easier to explain. I don't know. I keep repeating myself. It's simple to explain and easier to figure out.
That usually means you're on the right track if it's very simple, like with the pills.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, concerning the experiment rooms real quick, before we continue on, so with the experiment rooms, it is said, I think there's even some hints in the game, like, this is mostly about, like, response to fear. So, basically, William Afton is Scarecrow confirmed. Afton Scarecrow, anyone?
Okay, so in FNAF Security Breach, we see an image of a hospital bed, with the FNAF 4 sheets and the lamp, the same lamp and the same bedside table.
Hey guys, I hope you guys don't mind if I
know this one. This is don't put kids in the hospital.
What?
Stop. Okay, that's a perfect way to end. Okay, yeah. Before I go, I'm gonna tell you guys about that. So there was a time, I think right when Security Breach came out, there was the image with Cassidy in the bed and then the X over it. And that was just Shadow Libra and my Tawny Tux Phasing Gaming's interpretation was that just is saying, yeah, we don't put kids in the hospital, but like, oh, as we can see in this image, it proves Cassidy's the bite victim. Like, no, like, just don't put kids in the, yeah.
She
so it's
doesn't
pretty
even
funny,
look like Cassidy.
I think it's pretty clearly her.
I think it's not. I just don't get the logic. It's a black girl hair, therefore
Like,
Cassidy.
we talked about this like last
Wait,
time.
do you mean Cassie? Do you mean Cassie
No,
from
Cassidy.
Ruin? Sorry.
No.
Like last time we talked about it, where Cassidy like every time looks like different. So like so in so the name Cassidy itself means curly. Then in the novels, she was just a girl, a white girl with black straight hair. Then
But
in the graphic novels, she has pigtails and ginger hair. So, but graphic novels are not that important.
I am gonna
Uh,
dip. I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay, bye.
Good.
you have a great
See
day,
ya.
man.
Good seeing
Thank you.
dude.
You too. You too.
And then people connected the graphic book girl to Cassidy, even though it's just a white girl with black pigtails. And now we have another white girl with kind of brownish like hair with one pigtail. Like that's so. If a girl has dark hair, does she have to be Cassidy every time?
I think the connection. So with the logbook girl, it's interesting because the connection. I think that the
There,
community
okay,
made.
like there, that's okay because like at least it's like talking about happiest day and there's a cake. So
Yeah,
okay,
like flip side, you were going to say that like it's the only girl in the logbook and it's a puppet giving cake to a kid.
Yeah,
Thinking about happiest day.
like in the logbook,
mainly,
it's okay. It
mainly,
kind of makes sense. But here,
yeah, it was mainly the assumption of like, because we found the name Cassidy, then oh look at this, there's the name Cassidy in like this book, which shows a black-haired girl, and the same book which we find the name Cassidy, and there's like, oh, we see this black girl who's giving, sorry, this girl with black hair who's being given a cake by the puppet, and so that was kind of the association, but at the same time, that's like, that kind of like nowadays, I do believe that's not very strong evidence because of like in the logbook, there's also like, there's literally a coupon for a happiest day party, I believe, in the logbook, which is like that just seems like it's like an in-universe branding thing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's like
that was
it's
kind
an
of the
in-universe book
association.
too. It's like why would they put a dead kid there? Even Fazbear Fright, they're not that insensitive. They're not going to just put their a dead kid on the page. It's just like the puppet is just doing their job, giving cakes and gifts to kids. That's what I always thought it
yeah.
was. Because it's like if it was meant to be the girl cast that we know, from the fourth closet, then it would look like her. Because being a girl with black hair does not mean a Cassidy. If Scott, the logbook came first, so Scott could have very easily made that girl in the foot closet be disguised as a girl with short black hair and pigtails. And you could even go as far as to say, is a short black girl with pigtails with 2 golden locks. Right then and there, simple, there'd be no confusion. But instead, is completely different besides being a girl with dark hair.
Like,
Yeah, hiding something in plain sight is just Scott's MO, you know? Can you blame everyone for really thinking that?
I don't blame them. I just think it's a not strong way of theorizing to me personally. It's like I'm like if Scott wanted that to be clear, he would make it consistent instead of it being like completely different every time.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
seriously like
so-
consistent in every one for like visual appearances, except in that one Fright story.
yeah. So
So
with-
apparently, if you look at security breaches, like room itself with the FNAF 4 imagery and everything, there's just like a whole bunch of like little. There's even like a birthday cake person with their head off next to the tables and all that, and in the room is a golden present that reveals like the nightmare plush that looks, mind you, like the puppet, and that's also like possible.
Oh yeah, and it's Nightmare on instead of Nightmare.
Yeah, but it's still like the puppet. Like
Yeah.
what's in the gold present, and why is this like
Mhm.
why is FNAF 4 imagery in this area?
That is
But
a
what's
good...
in the gold present?
That yeah,
like-
that absolutely could be interpreted as FNAF 4 imagery. It'd be hard not to.
Well, yeah, I mean, they have 2 things. They have 2 things of a headless robot with birthday cake and a party hat, and then they have one with a broken table, a, mind you, dead staff bot. All of the staff bots are dead at this point, but dead staff bot with their head off, next to a FNAF 4 imagery of the bed and lamp.
Yeah, but like,
Does anyone else like that the behind the bed is a big red stripe? Kind of reminds me of the FNAF 4 teaser.
Okay.
Spring, did you want to
Yeah.
segue?
So I just find it interesting that like this image basically like shows the FNAF 4 bed with its bedside table and lamp, but the bed is just the hospital bed. And well, I just find it interesting. And one thing that it makes me think of is the real Jake, where we had a story about a boy being sick with tumor, being in like sitting in his bedroom, like laying and sitting in his bedroom all day, and well, he has his hospital bed in his bedroom, and the story like sounds very similar to Crying Child, where Crying Child also dies because something due to his head. With Jake it's the tumor, while with Crying Child it's his head that is beaten off. Then there is the real Jake doll, which talks to Jake, which is actually his father talking through a walkie-talkie, which is similar to how William has a walkie-talkie with the Fredbear plush, kind of hinting at William using the walkie-talkie to talk through Fredbear plush or something like that with the Crying Child.
Yeah.
And
sorry, I'll let you finish.
And it just very interesting how there's connect the real Jake seems like to kind of connect to Crying Child and Fredbear, and there's a hospital bed in his and he has a hospital bed in his bedroom. And then in FNAF 4 we see, or in Security Breach we see this image of the FNAF 4 bedroom items, but the bed is a hospital bed. I just find it's an interesting connection, intentional or not even.
Yeah,
I'm more of the opinion that Jake is closer to Charlie. It's more of a Charlie Henry story.
That's what I was gonna say. I agree with Draz that I think Jake more closely actually parallels Charlie. Not that. Here's the thing. I'm not saying he literally is the puppet, but because puppet exists in Stitchline, but Jake, I do feel like Jake very more closely parallels Charlotte, specifically because in the novels, Draz brought this up in his puppet or plush bear video, so please go watch that.
It's really
mentioned
good.
that it is really good. He mentioned that in the novels, Henry makes a toy for his daughter Charlotte, which is the Theodore doll, and he specifically records his voice, which is so he can talk to her and tell her he loves her and everything. And so that's something. And then there's also the fact that Jake, after he dies, he specifically possesses his doll. The doll, if you look at the citrate, it kind of looks a little bit, it resembles the puppet in a way because of the white face mask and the head, and also because Jake is his main thing he does throughout the Stitch line is constantly using people's memories to give them their happiest day, which is the puppet specifically does that for the 5th Golden Freddy child in FNAF 3 and whatnot, and throughout the games and for the MCI. So it's I don't know, I just feel I'm under the opinion that Jake more closely resembles Charlotte in terms of characters, but I do see the bi-victim connections. I don't know.
Actually, to boost that, at the towards right before Jake dies, the night he dies, Maggie hears whispers coming from his room, whispers that never were there before. This is after Evan's dead, really right before Jake passed away. She hears whispers. Speaking to Jake, she goes to listen to him, and it's gone. The book never explained he's dead. He's dead by the time she checks in the morning. The next time we ever hear whispers get described in any similar way is a book or so later when Larson has the puppet mask in the bag. So the puppet is the only character I think depicted there that speaks those type of whispers to a character whispering to him, telling him, "Do this, take me to him." Which I think it is intended to be Charlotte's spirit somehow speaking to Jake right before he dies. And I think that works, especially because if all these connections and similarities to Charlie exist, it is sort of showing a passing of the torch moment in Frights, where Charlie is weak. The most she can do is defeat the agony, but there's all the other spirits still trapped around the ball pit. So she is giving this passing up the torch to Jake, who ends up fulfilling what I presume she wanted him to do and free all the souls.
It's a fair
Oh, yeah,
interpretation.
one last thing to add. Just also another thing too is like Jake's family actually loves him, so there's that as well. So
Sorry, I had to
Anyway,
get my
sorry.
food on.
Okay,
I
so
was gonna say, like, the main thing that I wanted to point out, the reason why I believe that there's actually two entities, in a sense, like the Night 0 to 3 was William, and then the plushie was Charlie, is because originally attended so going back to FNAF 4 for original FNAF 4 in a sense, everyone thought that the plushie was supposed to be like Charlie being in the crying child's mind, and the other kids are there like as they're passing on or whatever, not passing on but just leaving and saying goodbye, and then just go from there. Yeah, it's just like I think I forgot the other one. But yeah, that's why I believe that there might be two entities. I believe William is talking to the bite victim Night 0 to 3, and doesn't talk to him in Night 4 and Night 5, which is interesting. But in the 6th night, when he's dying, Charlie Plush is most likely there, like, I will put you back together, like, and that's what connects to FNAF World in a sense, because I will not let the same thing happen to you. I will put you back together. Like, who is Plush Bear? But we're getting off track. But my point is, that's why I think there's two entities.
Can I actually?
Fact that
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, like, that's why, if you think about it, the golden present having a nightmare plushie, mind you, he's not named Nightmare on because he's not, in a sense, canon. He's canon to the effect of Fazbear Entertainment made their own character, but Nightmare is a literal, looks like the puppet, and I think that's representing that the puppet is the one that was talking to the bite victim, and that's why it's in a gold present.
okay.
Continue on, Drazarus.
I was going to say, I think I think an issue I think that you can point out with it being different person at the end of the game is this is the bite victim's mind, and that he is perceiving things in his mind. So the voice that he's hearing from his perspective is being perceived as the plush bear within his mind. That would only happen if it was the same voice, like he's familiar with the voice and he's picturing it that way. If it was a different person, he wouldn't be seeing the plush bear. I just don't see why he would hear like William's voice for 5 nights and then hear a girl's voice and be like, "Her is me," and like envision in that way. I think that's just weird. I think it doesn't make sense because we never really get any clarification about there being two different characters. It's just kind of like assumed because it's different text color, but I think Scott wanted to reveal the character for the text color. That's why it's a more faded, ghostly color, and that when you compare it to the puppet's mask, it's a very similar color to that. And
yeah,
this one's a little more stretchy, but if you combine plush bears, like regular plush bears color, with the color I think of the puppet's mask and the pure white text color that kind of belongs to the puppet in FNAF 2, you get almost exactly near identical text color, that final speaker. So I feel like it was trying to reveal the character rather than introduce a new one last moment.
Yeah, I feel like with the final speaker, it's I'm personally under the mindset right now that it's actually like the text color isn't meant to insinuate that it's like a different character, but rather it's just like it's the character who was the plush bear talking through their actual voice this time, or like kind of like yeah like Draz says is like slowly revealing it because in FNAF World we also have like the Spooky Eyes who I believe is the final speaker. I'll just clarify it now. I do believe that Fredbear plush, final speaker in FNAF 4, Spooky Eyes, and Glitch Bear are all the same character. I do believe they're all the
I
same
agree.
character. But like in FNAF World, when we open up the game, and Spooky Eyes is talking to us, and he's like, he says the things that the final speaker in FNAF 4 says to us at the end of the game, which shows that this is like a continuation off of that ending.
That's what I got.
The text looks even more white now. And but it's still meant to be the same character, despite the fact that the text color has seemingly changed again. So, yeah, I think it might just be like a solo reveal thing.
Well, one thing I already pointed it out, but interestingly enough, Night 4 and Night 5, the Fredbear plush isn't there.
That is true.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's why I was thinking it William in the beginning.
Okay, so
I think that's because I want to quickly answer that. I think the reason why it's not there on Night 4 is that you don't get Tomorrow's Another Day for two reasons. Is that you're in a back room with what seems to be a body in there. It's kind of symbolic of in the back room there is not another day. This is where you die. And then literally like foreshadowing, he dies the next day to Fredbear. So it's kind of like I kind of failed moment.
I guess. Yeah.
okay, I think it's.
So
I just wanted to say that point out that I think it's funny how we pretty much finished with the left side of the pinboard, and now we are we segmented basically to the right side of the pinboard. But
we really like going left and right.
yeah, but I like how we naturally segmented to the right side of the board right now. But I
That's
just
so
wanted to first of all comment on the Charlie theory that like the real Jake's parallels Charlie. I think that's a fair point. I think like that the FNAF 4 parallel is more obvious, but I think the Charlie option is also quite good, even though not quite obvious when you think at first, but then yeah, it does make sense. And the whispers, like the thing I thought of was exactly the like I thought of the FNAF 4 ending in a way. And well, there's a lot to say about FNAF World, the happy like we pretty much have only the FNAF World Happiest Day, like everything of that relating stuff left to talk about, and we're like we have like maybe like a half an hour left of the stream, or maybe
Really?
and so like I was thinking maybe we could like end the stream like about like finish talking about some things right now, but then finish the stream, and the next stream we're gonna talk about all the Happiest Day, Fredbear, the ice, and of FNAF World and all of that stuff.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, how about this? How about we finish up like just with some extra stuff? Like I see Susie and the DCI are on the board, so maybe we can talk about that a
Well,
little bit.
actually, Susie and DCI, well, those are relating to the neighborhood kids, and I had things to say about the neighborhood kids relating to the Happiest Day, and Happiest Day relates to everything else that is on the right side of the board. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's all
I think what we
it's
could
all
talk
very
about-
connected.
I guess we should focus on getting, I guess, two big things done would be like the plush bear and the bite victim's identity, like what is his role here, and then kind of
Yeah.
figure out the rest of it. Because I can immediately start the discussion that I genuinely think that this game is telling us that the bite victim is the one Golden Freddy child, and this is his origin story with the puppet and the other MCI, and that the story is effectively the MCI's origin. Because, for example, we gotta talk like a lot of it, but another one would be these are my friends, Fredbear and friends, we are still your friends. Something very familiar is watch the movie. Abby's the same thing with the other kids. He calls the classic animatronics her friends. These are my friends. And this is Mike's younger sibling, and the spirits are chilling in their house, interacting with Mike's younger sibling, even being in her dreams in the novelization. So it would seem that if we draw a parallel between Abby and
Grandchild?
the bite victim, it connects that FNAF 4 is like essentially about the missing kids, and that since it's the Golden Freddy origin story, the game's about the fifth child, the Golden Freddy kid.
I have so many problems with BB5, I don't even want to talk about it. I've had horror stories every single time I talked about it, especially with Tux and Libra back then. It was just like, okay, so I talk about like real life things and just like, okay, if a kid was found and a parent was just like concerned about their own kid going missing, and then just like, oh hey, let's report my kid going missing. Oh wait, he's found? Shouldn't that say like, oh, 1 kid has been found, 5 kids are now reported missing? Like, okay, that doesn't add up.
Well, I think the newspapers come beforehand.
Yeah, I'll just give my piece on this now, because I don't have much I can discuss about this. For me, there's like I could go around about like several things, like why I don't necessarily believe he is like the actual 5th child. I do see. Don't get me wrong. I see the evidence. It's definitely there, and I do think I do definitely think like it is a possibility. But just with even with like us putting the inclusion of Cassidy aside, because I definitely think Cassidy is a spirit and she's related to Golden Freddy somehow. For me, it's kind of just like when it comes down to the narrative of FNAF 4, I'll just narrow it down to FNAF 4 for me. It's kind of just like if that was the intention of like trying to make Bite Victim the origin of like the definitive origin of the Golden Freddy MCI kid. And it's just like I definitely think the story does tie into the MCI somehow. I'm not denying that. And I definitely do, and like the Happiest Day reflects that. All the Happiest Day connections. But for me, it's kind of just a scenario of like, if that was the intention, like why go through the whole plot line of the bite? Why kind of like put a whole go through this whole complication of like showing the home life and then I don't know, it feels very strange to me from like a storytelling standpoint of like, if that was the narrative he was going for, why he specifically took it in that direction. Obviously that doesn't debunk it or anything. To me, that's kind of like the thing that a little bit turns me off from it, is just the idea that like, if that was what he was going for, why not have him like I personally wish the game would have ended with him instead of getting bit or something like that, because I feel like that's like a really redundant thing for him to do narratively. I think it would have been great if the end of game ended with him like literally like somehow getting kidnapped or something, or like getting spring locked inside a Fredbear or something like that. I don't know. But for me, it's just like, if that was the narrative he was going for with this kid, why not follow through with that instead of like making this whole like weird plot line about him getting bitten and that being like the thing that sparked his possession, when it's like, especially when like with like every other timeline, it's like always like Golden Freddy is like supposed to, like apparently like this random kid who like just gets killed by William at Freddy's, and so it's just, I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's meant to. I think it's meant to make Bite Victim a unique Golden Freddy kid compared to the others, in that I said this to someone else, but it's that he's killed by his dad in Fredbear, but he was saved from it from the puppet. I want the same happen to you, but he can't escape his fate. It's like something that will happen. He was killed by Fredbear, was saved, but Fredbear still haunts him, and he still ends up becoming it. It's sort of like this thing where your fate is like determined. You will become Fredbear. That fate is intertwined.
Great. So he turned into Final Destination.
Okay.
Sure.
So, like, I do want to talk about who is Crying Child, but like who he possesses and what ends up with him. But again, I feel like I don't feel like I can say anything without talking about everything else on the right side of the board. So I think I will leave my opinion on who is Golden Freddy, Crying Child, etc. for the next time when we're gonna discuss all of the FNAF world, Happiest Day, and the rest of the right on the board. I do have some things to say though about other stuff right now that well, about Shadow Freddy, and one thing from FNAF 3 that isn't related to FNAF 4, but like I just wanted to mention as just an interesting thing. And then we could end the stream.
We can scream and then end the stream.
So what do you think of this as the idea, as the plan?
Yeah, that's a good plan. I like that
sounds
we're
like a good
already
plan.
trying.
I can do that. I think we really made really good progress.
Yeah, I
We
think
kind of like we hit all the points in a very weird way, but we kind of got a roundabout way of doing it. And heck, even Andrew somehow made it in. So I somehow
well,
squeezed him in there.
I still gonna have
Buddy.
things to say about Andrew next time.
Oh no,
and
no,
Happiest
no,
Day
you can't
and
do that
FNAF
to
4.
me. You can't do that to me.
What?
Nothing. My mind is always There is one thing I did forget to mention because I forgot, but in FNAF AR, the remnants in the Agony or Dark Remnant, they also have whispers.
Yeah, that's interesting point.
But I just wanted to point that out because I completely forgot. My mind was like,
It's okay. I always forget about FNAF AR.
So
I always forget about anything nowadays.
FNAF AR is like this. FNAF AR is like this festering parasite that's just like in the back of my mind, constantly like nagging at me whenever I come back to the franchise. I'm just like, especially like when I'm dealing with like the modern FNAF lore, and I'm trying to like make theories and like think
And
about
then
that.
and then Aztec Springtrap pops into your mind.
And then
you're like, oh,
Aztec
no.
Springtrap pops in. Exactly, Aztec Springtrap is my sleep paralysis demon. I hate that thing.
That's Liberty Chica for me.
I have a freaking Liberty Chica toy that my sister got for me at Christmas. Is like, and it's standing next to one of my Bionicles and GI Joes, and just like, stop staring at me, please.
I have a lot of FNAF merch. A lot.
I have a lot of Transformers, GI Joe, Bionicle.
The only FNAF merch I have is literally the Funko Lefty plush. Not the plush, the figurine, and it's literally the figurine where Lefty is right-handed.
That is actually one of my first FNAF stuff. Actually,
They had one job. They had one job.
that is one of my first FNAF things I got.
I think I found something that I need to now make. Since I just mentioned it, I need to make BB5 into Final Destination. I need to show the bite victim having a premonition dying, and then he dies in the next time. BB5 Final Destination.
Okay, so I just wanted to... Well, I had a theory a while back that I didn't really believe, and I still don't really believe it, but I just like the idea of, even though I think it's very unlikely. So, back in the day when FNAF World was teasing, so people looked at Shadow Freddy on the what do you call it? The teaser, on the FNAF World teaser, and like, first of all, well, they pointed out that his jaw is broken, but also like, well, right now, like, you can see that it is just the lighting here, but like, people said like, he has yellow teeth like a human would have, and like, there's a human inside it, and like, and I actually kind of have a theory relating to that. Well, the theory is that Shadow Freddy is a phone guy.
Oh god.
Okay, hear me out.
No, it's okay. No, I like this.
We're
Phone
going
guy.
back to 2015, guys.
We can hear phone guy is killed by Golden Freddy on the phone call, and I think in the week before there's also like he's often killed by Golden Freddy or Freddy. Then in the week before there is like even a moment where like phone guy's daughter for a second mistakes phone guy for Freddy, and then there's a whole like a story like whole ending where phone guy becomes Freddy or something like that. Which
Isn't that the canon ending though?
well, I haven't read the week before, so I don't know much. So it's just from what I've heard. And
You want to explain a little bit, or
maybe you
Okay.
could.
So basically, what happens is it does do the call for night 4, and then it cuts to him like being stuck in a Freddy suit, basically hoping that someone will find him, but then it just cuts to the end, basically.
Yeah, but like I think there was also like some kind of an ending where, well, I've heard that like he like literally like changes bodies with Freddy or like becomes Freddy or something like that. I'm not
Which
sure.
one you
was,
talking about? Lonely
there-
Freddy?
No, we're talking about the week before.
The week before. I was
Oh,
talking about Winrow. There was an ending. There was an ending, I believe. I haven't read the full week before. But I believe there was an ending where like Ralph, he gets killed. So canonically, Ralph gets killed by all the animatronics. Like I think Golden Freddy's included in that, if I remember correctly. But so one of the endings is that he gets killed and he gets stuffed, but he specifically says the words "It's me." And I believe it's a Freddy suit, and he said the words "It's me," so people like were like, "Oh, that like was he stuffed into Golden Freddy?" So I think that was to. And then obviously there you mentioned there was the Copelia thing where she actually specifically does say she's like, "I thought you were that Fredbear thing from your work," and he's like, "Don't you mean Freddy?" She's like, "Yeah, whatever." But it's interesting because it's like she knew what Fredbear was, but I don't know.
Yeah, so anyways, like there's like connections with Phone Guy and Freddy and Fredbear and Golden Freddy. And so like it kind of would make sense like that if Phone Guy would have like something of an animatronic form or something similar, it would be something Freddy-like. Like Shadow Freddy. And Shadow Freddy resembles Golden Freddy, who Phone Guy is mainly killed by. And also Shadow Freddy, like he like never really tries to hurt the night guard. So like you could like say that, well, he doesn't like he's not a child, so that's why he's not killing the night because like he was the one who was helping the night guard with Fonka, so it would make sense that he wouldn't kill the night guard if he was Shadow Freddy or something like that. And we literally see just Shadow Freddy chilling in the corner in FNAF 3, and like it's just an idea, but like again, like it's very complicated because, well, we see Shadow Freddy in FNAF 2, and like there's like Phone Guy did not die yet, unless like FNAF 1, like FNAF 1 over like happened right after FNAF 2, and in FNAF 2 those are tapes, and like while we're hearing those tapes, Phone Guy is already dead in FNAF 1, but like it just makes it so much more complex. But
Yeah.
I think it just would be a cool idea if he was Shadow Freddy though.
I think
Bring
the idea
back
is
those spring
fascinating.
employees.
What?
Yeah, back in the day, I always liked the idea, but obviously I don't believe this now, but back in the day I always loved the idea that like Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy were like these Springlock employees, and they were like these like weird phantoms of those, but
Yeah.
whatnot. They didn't really have any evidence, but it was just cool. It was a cool way to tie them into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. Also, one thing that I put on the board, but we never really talked about, was the FNAF 4 menu.
Yeah.
And well,
Oh yes, the menu.
Yeah, I've stared at that. I've
So-
stared at that image for a long time.
so the house. It's the Midnight Motorist house, it's the FNAF 4 house, it's the Nightmare house. So,
I think it's
Yeah.
the Midnight Motorist house, mostly because it's in the woods, and if you look at 5 Laps at Freddy's, it does have a similar design to it.
I remembered there was this Reddit post I saw a long time ago. I can't remember about, but it actually talked about how the layout of the Midnight Motors house with like the door and the window,
yeah.
it you don't see the whole house, but it kind of because like it's not like fully like, it's not like a full on like house render.
Yeah,
It's
it
like
does
it's a
match.
minigame. But it kind of does match not only the FNAF 4 house, but also the FNAF 4 gameplay house is like if you look at the placement of the window from like the door and the hallway, it's an interesting thing. I'll find the images, but it's interesting. It is interesting. So, and some people have like speculated that like maybe the experiment rooms were like, or maybe I just thought of this, but like the experiment rooms were like based off of that specific house, but obviously that assumes after Midnight Motorist, but I don't know.
Yeah,
It might have been inspired by the house because the rooms.
Because that house is relevant somehow. We keep seeing it, so.
Yeah.
so the question I have is not even. Also, I think there's maybe a card there, or maybe that's just a push. The question I had was, why are the Nightmare animatronics outside?
Yeah, that's a great question.
So that kind of makes me. So first of all, that kind of reminds me of the phrase like, "What did you bring home?" or something like that from the trailer for FNAF 4. Also, it makes me think of the FNAF, the Twisted ones again, which have the nightmare on the cover, which. In there, like the Twisted animatronics, like every night would like crawl out from the ground and like go around the city looking for Charlie, and like this kind of makes me think of that. So why are the Nightmare animatronics outside here? What are your thoughts?
I'm wondering if it's a representation of the fact that they are at that house. That's why they're outside of it. Like they're actually there,
Like-
but it's not in the house itself.
Like,
Yeah, I kind of always interpreted it with like them being outside in the bushes and like it shows like the house in the distance. It's kind of like a horror movie moment a little
Yeah.
bit, or it's kind of like it's like an almost moment of like, because like like you said Spring, like the trailer, it talks about like, what have you brought home, so it's kind of like a oh, they're here moment, like the nightmares are here, so I guess you could interpret it like them physically coming to the house, or it's like they've just arrived.
it's just like
It's interesting. Yeah.
it's just like a weird choice to put them outside, if they are just like experiences that like take place like somewhere underground or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. This is No, I kind of just realized this. And I'm not saying this is like a definitive connection, but the interesting thing is like they seem like they're at a pretty much of a distance from the house, and it seems like they're like in these bushes or like hiding or something like that. And that does kind of make me think of the mound, because that's like a distance away from the house. I'm not saying they are the mound. I'm not. Maybe that's like maybe me saying that is like triggering, but I'm just.
Oh no, not at all.
You could. I just think it's a detail that I made the connection to, and I was like, oh, maybe I should point that out. So.
Mannequin mound. That's the Midnight Motorist theory.
Okay, so then we also see it in the FNAF Fredbear DLC, and like it's at the same exact angle pretty much.
Well, this video.
So like you would assume that the Nightmare were like in where the Fall Fest is actually technically, if you think about it.
Yeah, kinda, I guess, in a way.
Like we are looking from the exact same place.
You're right.
So
From the same spot.
and then that's interesting how nightmares are placed right in the Fall Fest area then, if you think about it. That's an interesting choice again.
I think the house itself is the one we are in FNAF 4, because the FNAF 4 minigame one is completely different.
Yeah.
But
They're definitely
on
not
this, I think it's possible the sister location house is the Midnight Motorist house because of the way that the TV in the chair is somewhat set up. Just something I noticed, that's all.
Okay, so I just want to look at this. So we have the Midnight Motorist house, and like in the minigame, in the Midnight Motorist, like in the like small view, like where the house is small, it kind of looks like the house is like the entrance door, like it's like kind of an, like we are looking it at an angle. So like the door is on the right side. We see the right wall, which is facing the road, while the left side is the other wall of the house, and like, well, it's, and like, well, let me, well, let me just show you real quick. So it's something more like that. So where like the right side is like we are looking at like a side. So, and like the overhang would be then, I guess, on the right in this case, if this is the same house as the FNAF 4 menu. So that would mean that
I
then
think that definitely is what it's meant to be.
yeah, so like if the overhang that the FNAF 4 menu has is on this house, and then that means that in Midnight Motorist, in this image, it is on the right. So meaning that technically we are looking from the same perspective at the house as the juniors slash the mount, maybe in theory.
Actually, wait. Actually, I'm looking at the FNAF 4 menu screen, just like without like the text and stuff right now, and just looking at the plain image. I'll put it in the
Yeah.
chat. But interesting thing, I just like remembered or realized that I remember something pointing out is that actually like you can actually see like the little path leading up to the house on the menu screen if you look to the right.
Huh.
You can kind of see it.
Yeah. Something like that. It kind of looks like that. Yeah. It could be just lighting of the ground,
Yeah,
but
it could be just lighting, but it kind of looks like a path a little bit.
it does.
I definitely might have to take a look back at some of these things a little bit. I'm just so caught up with like freaking card games and my potential voice acting career. I don't know when that's gonna happen though.
Bruh, that Brazil guy has commented on 4 of my shorts with the Brazil flags. Why?
He loves
I just
Brazil.
blocked-
Yeah.
People are
I don't know why he's
strange.
spamming. I just blocked him. I don't know why he's spamming.
He just loves
Kind of
Brazil.
annoying.
Are you gonna
Yeah.
blame him for loving Brazil?
It's a
Oh
Brazil
no,
ending.
block the flag of Brazil.
We're going to
That ain't
Brazil. I'm not going back to Brazil.
good.
You're already in Brazil.
This is Brazil.
You know, like, you said something about like the house not being the one from minigames, but like the Midnight Motorist house technically does work as a minigame house because, well, there's 3 rooms in a row. So there's the living room, then there's the clock room, and there's then the girls' room. And like in the Midnight Motorist, we also have 3 rooms. The TV room, which is the living room, then the hallway, the middle room basically, and then there's the third bedroom, the bedroom room, which in Midnight Motorist belongs to a runaway child, which is a boy, we assume, because he. But like, still, it's interesting how it does match up with there being 3 rooms, and there is a door to the left of the FNAF 4 minigame house as well. So
Yeah, that I thought that was like the Michael R. Williams room.
I mean, yeah, it could be, but like it also could be like a second entrance or something, and we just don't see like, and it just simplified, and so we don't see any other rooms. But like I just like it does kind of work. Like it does kind of look similar, I think. Like,
The only thing that I could see it if it was like a scenario where it's like you could say, oh, the FNAF 4 minigame house is like thing is like a simplified version of the Midnight Motorist house, and that's like the more detailed version. But the thing about that for me is like you look at the FNAF 4 minigame thing, and that's like it seems like that's like a populated neighborhood because there's like other kids around.
I
And there's a
mean,
playground which we don't see in Midnight Motorist.
it could be just simplified like view where like it looks like it's just like a small walk to the diner, but really it's a big walk, and there's just like in the middle of that in the middle of those there's a playground or something like that.
I just feel like the fact that he was like the fact that he was able to walk, it's like I don't see the crying child walking like these miles and miles to the diner.
Well, maybe
like,
it's not like
when
miles, but like maybe just like like short enough to be a walking distance, but
You're
long
talking
enough
about
to...
like the Midnight Motorist house, right?
Yeah.
Being like the minigame house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
of the
personally think it is.
I'm of the controversial opinion that that's not any Afton house, but it's actually Henry's.
I mean, it
Oh,
does
no.
fit Henry's from the novels, to be fair, yeah.
It one to one
Let's
does. It
go.
actually exactly matches
And
because
maybe...
the exact description of Henry's house from the Silver Eyes was that it was off a highway and clearly in the woods. In fact, there's a thing in the book where Charlie flashbacks to where she like had her first kiss with John as a kid, and she mentions that Henry had warned her to not run off into the woods and get lost.
Yeah, they went in case they went too far from the house.
Yeah, so like it exactly matches the house in almost every aspect based on the book description, and the Silver Eyes like had the original cover with the exact same aesthetic as FNAF 4's menu, and that one had the house in the forest clearing, and that also
Oh, yeah,
happens to
yeah.
match Henry's house.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
you mean the Silver Eyes cover having the same aesthetic as FNAF 4.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was.
that always interested me that it was like that. That was yeah. That's a
I
good thing
kind of
to
wish
point
I
out.
had the first cover for Silver Eyes.
I can send it in the chat.
It
I
looks
have
so much... No, like, I mean physically, you know? Like, on the book.
Oh yeah.
Like, it looks so
Yeah,
much
yeah,
better
me
in
too.
my opinion.
Yeah, I like that cover a lot better. I think it's really cool.
But yeah, it is interesting how how the house is pretty much like just like Henry's from the books, and also again coming back to nightmares being in front of the menu, like the twisted ones, like animatronics were buried like right below the house, in Henry's house. So I think, yeah. So that is interesting.
Yeah, I like this interpretation because anytime someone has said that the yellow guy has been William, that's rubbed me the wrong way. Like, artistically, there's no way they would ever portray William as the opposite of purple, yellow.
I mean, yeah, but also they made another purple guy which became Michael, so like they had to differentiate him somehow or something like that.
I think, like, just artistically, the person who's yellow has to be the opposite of the purple guy. There's no way he's William, 100%.
Like, well, yeah, like that's what we would
Guaranteed.
assume, really. But
To me, that's enough proof.
like
is
the,
that
yeah, but like
also the book, that's a very strong description of Henry's house in the book.
but like also the 5 laps at Freddy's, like the Midnight Motorist car, like called Midnight Motor, like has a spring bony antenna, like
I think
kinda
the
hinting at it being, well,
I
it
think
being
the idea I would go
William.
with is that Henry and William were business partners, and companies and business partners often share things such as cars. Company cars are a thing. And if we actually look at the car out directly outside what seems to be Afton's house in FNAF 4, it's a blue car.
I was thinking you're gonna say
if we
they
look at
live
the
in
movie,
the same house.
in the movie, we also have William's car is like black. It also looks dark blue. Some people it seems to just be black. So William's been depicted in 2 games having 2 different color cars. The only time he's had the purple car is Save Him. So to me,
Which was in the
way
shadows.
the way I interpret it is that it might be a car that he shared with Henry that he used to kill his daughter with. So William is associated with the car. That's the car he used to kill Charlie. But he's not the owner of the car, which when you think about it does kind of fit William's kind of MO. Because his entire thing against Henry is basically stripping away everything from him, take away his family, make him look bad, destroy everything. And what's the most ironic way of killing his daughter? Driving up in his own vehicle and then killing his daughter and driving away with it.
Doesn't it say in a hidden description that it's about a killer ride and it's
That's a
nice
cut
to
description. It's not natural like demo.
Wow.
But still, yeah.
Well, it wouldn't conflict the theory because like the idea is that it is the car that was used to kill Charlie, but Afton's not the owner of the car.
Okay, I
That's
just
pretty
found
tough.
an interesting image here pointing out that the FNAF for the Splash Trap minigame has like a one window at the top, and like people connected to the Midnight Motorist house having one window in the attic.
Yeah, it has an upper window.
So that's an interesting details, which I mean it could be the same window in theory, but what do you all think?
Well, where exactly is the plush trap hallway on the breaker room map?
Well, it is.
Well, on the breaker room map, it's just in its own area.
Yeah,
See?
it is.
That's kind of weird to me.
It is.
It's connected
There's.
to Ballora Gallery.
Yeah, so like
It's like above it.
yeah, it's like either it's probably above Balor's gallery or like right next to it, connected to it at least. And then above there, it there's.
I don't know.
The
I don't
FNAF.
know if it's above it. I don't know if it's above it because in Didophobia, I think Rory goes through like a corridor when he's like leaving the experiment room, specifically, and it like leads directly into Circus Baby's entertainment and rental. And also like we actually in Help Wanted in the Plus Trap minigame, we actually do see like mini arenas like in the actual like Plus Trap hallway as like an Easter egg.
Yeah, actually, I have a question now. So in FNAF VR, like we can look behind us, and there is a door leading to the FNAF 4 main gameplay area.
Yeah.
So, do we consider that as canon interpretation, or do we consider as just being a non-canon interpretation of whoever made the Silver Parcel games?
I don't know if that's like necessarily meant to be like the door that leads directly into the bedroom. I think that's just like a door that like leads to an actual another room, because like the hallway, it seems like the house just like has other white doors, because if you notice like in the
like we
in the
can
map of,
peek
like,
behind it and see that it's the
Yeah.
same hallway.
Really?
Yeah, it's the same. Like we can peek behind the door and see that it is the exact same hallway as the FNAF 4 main gameplay, and we can see the branching hallways that lead to the bedroom.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say it's probably just like, because the games are like, they're definitely accurate. The indie games that the Help Wanted's based off of. But it seems like there's certain details that are slightly changed just a little bit.
I think they're mostly accurate, but not like.
But the thing about FNAF 4 is that Steve Snodgrass, he never completed that game. It was
Yeah.
an unfinished product. So I guess you could like chalk it up as like, oh, they don't exactly know for sure, but that's still weird because like Fazbear would know. So I don't know. It's just I guess it's just kind of weird. I don't really know what to make of that actually.
Oh, well, we are on the topic of the map. So the juniors. So one thing that interested me in juniors, when we saw it in 5 Laps at Freddy's, is how it works pretty well with Fredbear, first of all, Happiest Day, and Charlie's death. So we can let me put it in the Discord's chat. So now happy is okay. Well, anyways, okay, so we can see on it that there is like there's one entrance doors to the right of it, and then there's the main entrance door to the left of it, with a window to the left of the door.
Right. So we know it's a restaurant.
Yeah. So first of all, it matches, like if we look from inside, the door and the window could match with the with Charlie's death, if you think about it, with the door being on the inside on the left, and then the window to the right of the door.
Interesting.
And the window is not a square; it's elongated, just like in the mini game. So, like, I think it's an interesting detail how it matches quite perfectly. Then I want to point out that the double doors on the right kind of could match with how the layout of the Fredbears is in FNAF 4, where like we enter double doors, and then there's like if we go straight there will be the stage with Fredbear and Spring Bunny.
The only thing about, you just mentioned the window thing. The only thing about that is that in security puppet, like when we exit out of that, it takes us like when the puppet goes out through the doors, it specifically goes into a back alley, and that seems like that's specifically.
Well, we also don't see the window, so like she could be like going around the corner.
I suppose so.
So like it could be cut to straight to being behind it. So like yeah. Then in the last thing, so one of the things that I will talk about next time, and I'm gonna mention it right now, is how like the Happiest Day layout is similar to the Fredbear's layout but mirrored. Either being so like it could be that the Fred, like we see the FNAF in FNAF 4, we see like the right side of Fredbear's basically, and then in Happiest Day we see the left side of Fredbear's, which would mean there's an exit door on the left wall of Fredbear's, and here we see an exit door on the left side of Junior's. And then we also have the fact that in, again, connecting to the child's minigame, we I think had an exit sign above that door, and in Happiest Day we have an exit sign, an exit door on the same side in theory.
Yeah.
Like you'll draw an image next time to show that better.
Yeah.
But I think you kind of get the point I meant.
Yeah.
So I just think that it's interesting how it matches pretty well. And I think we might be like, I think this could be the great time to finish the stream. What do you think?
Yeah.
That's kind of a good idea.
Yeah, I think this is a good spot. I think we made good progress.
We made huge progress. I'm
and then,
surprised
you
we
know,
got
FNAF
through so
World.
many.
Yeah. Like I'm shy. Like I thought we would to go to, like first like to the right side of the board and discuss all the happiest day, but somehow we smoothly went through the gameplay and everything of that first on
I
accident.
guided us down the dark path of the left side.
It's because we started with the puppet. That's why. And
Right,
then we kind of went from there.
Yeah, I was like,
Yep.
I wanted to. I was like thinking, oh, we're gonna go to the Fredbear Flash, then I'm gonna go to like the bite
Yeah,
victim
me
when
too.
he saw.
Me too. I totally
Yeah,
thought we were
that
going
was
to go to
kind of that was kind of my plan at first, but so I was shocked when we ended up not following it.
This is good though. This
Yeah.
leaves we've got our work cut out for us next time.
Yeah, because next time it's all. The next time it honestly like this was hard because like this was a lot of this was the right side is like exterior stuff
Yeah.
relating to like a lot of other media. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still connected to FNAF 4, but it's like all the stuff here is like the breaker room map, the
Seriously.
cameras, the Curse of
Yeah.
Dreadbear, you know, Real Jake, etc. So like we kind of like cleanly bring it back to like to mainly like FNAF World and like just FNAF 4, like the bite victim and the, you know, the neighborhood kids and whatnot. So the only thing that
Yeah,
doesn't
that
match
was
there is
amazing.
Andrew. But yeah, no, I think it did good.
Yeah, like how things relate to FNAF 4, even though
Yeah.
like
We got
the
we
breaker
kind of-
room goes
we-
into sister location for sure.
we kind of like hit off all the miscellaneous stuff first. So next time will be like more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it was good.
Also, now I pointed it out in the beginning of the stream, but now I'm gonna point it out again. It's funny how everybody who is on the thumbnail did make it into this stream.
You're right, even Sandwich Man.
Like, yeah, even like the sandwich man, which I left just as a sandwich because I wasn't sure if you're gonna make it. He came, so
You saw the future.
yeah. Well, I asked him if he might come, and he said that he might. So.
Is this the first thumbnail that's not a lie ever to be made?
Yeah. What do
I'm
you
just
think?
kidding.
What do you all think of the thumbnail, by the way?
I like it. I think it's great.
I love it. I'm glad I get top billing. I get the center screen.
Yeah, like
I like how I'm like the Fredbear head.
Yeah.
in the center.
You and I, Flipside, we get center billing. This is awesome.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
my original plan really was to have Shadow Libra in the front where Cheeda is, and then glitch side behind him, like in the endoskeleton pose from Security Breach.
Hopefully we can get Libra in here next time.
Yeah.
Depending on our plan.
But shockingly, this version turned out very well. Too.
Yeah, I think it went great.
I put myself on the left side because I'm always on the left side of the screen in my videos, and then Drazarus is always on the right side of his videos, so I put him on the right side. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
So yeah, I guess let's finish the stream and say the outro.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, tell us in the comments what you think of the stream if you're watching it after you after it's done streaming. Join our Discord servers and talk to us there about your theories and etc. But for now, that's it. Subscribe to our channel to not miss any of our videos. Press that like button with that bell, and remember, I always come back.
Bye bye.
My name is Edwin.
Flipside.
I made the mimic. It was difficult to put the pieces together.
Oh, again. We don't
What a way to end.